So, Get This Smoke just made a reply to my video that Floyd Mayweather is not the greatest, and indeed, Floyd Mayweather is not the greatest of all time. And he went through that in detail. Showbiz the Adult went through it in detail. But I do believe that Showbiz the Adult and myself do agree on this. What Floyd Mayweather called himself the best ever, he definitely has a lot of claim to that. And he's made his case and he's talked about it, Floyd Mayweather himself. And I have a whole playlist, a whole series on that. You can just go check out my playlist, Floyd Mayweather TBE. I do believe he is TBE at present. However, it may not stay that way forever. But when it comes to Floyd Mayweather and Floyd Mayweather TBE, I do believe that what he claimed he is has a lot of merit. And in fact, he's probably the only person who could claim that claim and actually hold to it. And let me mention a couple of other guys who have that claim, and you can really make a case with them. Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis was a dominant heavyweight in the heavyweight division. In fact, Lennox Lewis has beaten every single opponent he has faced. Now, the problem with Lennox Lewis was he lost to two opponents that he faced. He did get the rematches and he did beat them comprehensively, but he lost to two. And Lennox Lewis, in my opinion, is the greatest heavyweight of all time. Even though Muhammad Ali is the greatest of all time, I think that Lennox Lewis is the greatest heavyweight of all time, and I think he's the best heavyweight ever. And it goes for a lot, actually, a lot of people in boxing. There's been a lot of great and a lot of really good fighters who can be considered the best ever. I would mention Vladimir Klitschko is in that discussion. Gene Tunney's in that discussion. Charlie Burley's in that discussion. I mean, we can just go through all history. There's a lot of fighters, okay? A lot of fighters. And some of them, you guys don't even know their names that, I've done in my playlist, Boxers Not Talk Much About. You can check that out. Marlon Starling said, he made the claim that he is the best ever. All right. And Marlon Starling had a style that was really quite unbeatable. It was a very difficult style to beat. So I can understand why he would make that claim. But here's the thing. For all these people that make these claims, and Lennox Lewis is probably, of recent times, he's probably the guy who has the strongest case to make that claim. Of all the guys out there that has made that claim, Floyd Mayweather has backed up his claim. And it's mainly because he's faced the best of his era, the very best of his era, and he has not lost to any of them. And that is tremendous because, all the great names of his era, he has faced them. And you cannot ignore that. You can, a lot of people talk about, undefeated, is overrated. Like 50-0 is overrated. No, it's not, because this 50-0 started off back in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. 1998, when Floyd Mayweather won his first world championship against the veteran, but the undefeated super featherweight. He was defeated at lightweight. The undefeated super featherweight, Genaro Hernandez. Okay, a lot of people did not think that Floyd would win that fight. They didn't think he was prepared for Genaro Hernandez, and he beat Genaro Hernandez, who was the greatest super featherweight in the division at the time. Okay, nobody fucked with Genaro. Okay, and so that's how Floyd won his first championship. Genaro Hernandez was his last fight. He was like, 32, 33, something like that, or 34, 35, something like that. Okay, but at the end of the day, Genaro Hernandez had a lot of fights as well. And that's when it started. Floyd was a world champion at the age of 22, 23, something like that. This dude, you see what these young champions are doing right now? You got guys like Devin Haney. You got guys like Gervonta Davis. You have guys like even, Lomachenko old. If he had started this early, but we got a lot of young bucks now doing it. Canelo Alvarez started very young. These are guys that are getting world championships very early in their careers, which means if they can stay world champion for the majority of their career, they're going to surpass Floyd. You got Shakur Stevenson. Teofimo Lopez is in line for that. He's a young buck as well. So this is the kind of thing we're talking about. Guys that start off as world champions very early in their career. 14 fights, 13 fights. For Lomachenko, it was 2 fights, but Lomachenko was old. Guillermo Rigondeaux was old. So these guys, they was in the amateurs too long. So that's why they just jumpstart their career and went moving. But guys like, Shakur Stevens, Guys, this is a new breed. The new breed's coming out. They're even going to be more exceptional. The only problem with that is, like with Devin Haney's case, he's not the real world champion. Lomachenko is. He has to face Lomachenko. Hopefully, he gets to face Lomachenko before he moves up to super lightweight. If not, well, it is what it is. But Floyd started off very early becoming a world champion, and he never, ever, ever stopped being a world champion. That's what you guys got to understand. He's been a world champion since 1998. His career ended in 2017, okay? You know, he was on and off, you know, retire, come back out, retire, come back out. Whether we like it or not, Conor McGregor was his last fight. And let me just say this about Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor did an excellent job of selling that fight. And because of Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor, we're seeing boxers trying to do all kinds of things. They're going back into MMA. I'm not saying of recent times. I'm not saying that it didn't happen before, but not as frequently as we're hearing it now scouted about. MMA fighters wanted to face boxers, and boxers wanted to face MMA fighters, and boxers want to go into WWE and that kind of stuff. It wasn't as frequent as it is now. We are actually hearing top tier boxers talking about, you know, having MMA fights, and MMA fighters talking about facing top tier boxers. This happened because of Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Let's be real. Conor McGregor called out Floyd Mayweather, and he faced him. So we have to count that as a legitimate fight, whether you like it or not. So this guy, he wasn't a world champion then, though. He was the world champion up to 2015. So from 1998 to 2015, this man had been a fucking world champion. Okay, he was a world champion. You know, of course, he did reacquire certain belts and stuff, but basically with the WBC, you were champion in recess, you were champion emeritus. So he was a world champion from 1999 all the fucking way up to 2015. All right, which is pretty crazy. That's total about 17 years, 18 years, something like that. That's crazy. We're not talking about a career. We're talking about being a world champion. And as Roger Mayweather said, this man basically surpassed the great Joe Louis, who was the longest reigning world champion. Floyd Mayweather became the longest reigning world champion of all time. That's just one statistic. There's many differences. But my point anyway is this. The 50-0 has to do with a guy who was a world champion from fucking 18 years ago. All right. And this man maintained not only his championship, he unified. Not only that, but he beat the best in each of his divisions he went into. Okay. This shit never happened before. It never happened before. All right. That's just resume. And of course, we have the names like Pacquiao, you know, Cotto, you know, De La Hoya, Mosley. You know, say what you want. Those names are on that resume. You have to consider that shit. Intangible Boxing says, I consider Floyd a top 10, 5 fighter ever, not the best. Well, I'm going to tell you why I believe he's the best. Okay. I make no excuses for it. He the best. All right. Skill wise, he's not the most skilled fighter ever. No, he's not. Speed wise, he's not the fastest fighter ever. Power wise, he's not the most powerful fighter ever. In terms of opponents, he's not faced the most notable great opponents ever. Roy Jones Jr. did it. Harry Crabb did it. Okay. Sugar Ray Robinson had more top tier opponents than Floyd. Okay. So that's not what I'm saying. However, he did. Okay. Forget all that. He also, in addition to that, if you look at each weight class, right, you would not call him the greatest of all time in any one of those weight classes. I always say that Henry Armstrong was the greatest welterweight of all time. That's my opinion. Okay. When you're looking at lightweight, the greatest of that, some people say Roberto Duran. Okay. I hear them. I think Pernell Whitaker is the greatest lightweight of all time. That's my pick for the greatest lightweight of all time. Because the guys he faced at lightweight, I thought they were much higher standard, much higher quality than Pernell Whitaker's guys. All right. Super featherweight. Who is the greatest super featherweight of all time? That's a good question. You got a couple of them. Okay. You got a couple of them. You got a couple great super featherweights. I don't think Floyd is the greatest super featherweight of all time. I don't think that Floyd's the greatest super lightweight of all time. Certainly not in the top 10 super lightweights of all time, even though he faced the Turagatti. Okay, we got guys like Barney Ross, and I mean we got great lightweights as well, Ike Williams. You know, we got great lightweights. Okay, but what I'm saying is not that he's the greatest or the best in those particular divisions. Floyd, it was never the fastest. He was never the strongest. He was never the most powerful. He was never the most skillful. But you know what separates Floyd from everybody else? The man was the most prepared for every single fight. The man was the most dominant I've ever seen for every single fight he faced. Cut to the fact that when he wasn't as dominant, he didn't look as dominant, they thought he lost. And finally, from the fights I've seen, he was the smartest. And he still is to this day the smartest boxer out there. That's why he had that record. He never took nothing for granted. He always came in tip-top shape. And he was always ready to fight. That's why I said nobody beats Floyd Mayweather throughout history. Nobody. Nobody. Because he had bad hands, ladies and gentlemen. Bad hands. And this man's still beating guys that outweigh him by 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19 pounds. This motherfucker's still beating these dudes. Guys that bring the heat. It didn't matter what style he was. It didn't matter what dimension you were. It didn't matter what you think you was. He beat you. And he beat you easy. Or he made it look easy. He made it look easy. If the fighters who he faced, except for Oscar De La Hoya, the fighters who he faced, who they said he had a tough fight with, he'd do it over. He said, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. He never had his knockout power. This man didn't have later on in his career, especially at welterweight. He wasn't known as a knockout artist. You know how hard that is? You don't have no big set of power to keep guys off of you. You got power. They respect you. But you got to break them down to take them out. That's harder than a guy who got one punch knockout power or a guy capable of knocking another guy out. That's harder to do. Ask Gerald Washington. To go 12 rounds. This man went 12 rounds, fight after fight after fight. You think that's easy? And still get the judges to make a decision on his behalf. They look at it like, hey, a blind man can see. Stevie Wonder could see that he won that fight. Give him it. Right? That's hard to do, ladies and gentlemen. Now, some people say, well, if he was in another era, if he was like, say, in Jack Johnson's era, if he was like, say, in an era where, you know, it was difficult and there was different gloves and there was segregation and, you know, the judges would want to favor the white guy and stuff like that. If he didn't get a definitive knockout, he wasn't going to win. Well, that might have been the case. We've seen it happen with Pernell Whitaker and Julio Cesar Chavez. But everybody would have known he had won. Everybody would have known he beat that dude. You get what I'm saying? Everybody would have known that. Because he had bad hands. And this motherfucker, I remember once, he punched a guy on the wrong side of the guy's head. He hurt his hand. He took his hand down. He hurt both hands in a fight. Both hands were hurt. And this motherfucker still found a way to win. And the other guy was coming all the time. You know, they bring the heat. They coming. If you guys have watched Floyd Mayweather's career and his fights, you would know this man is, listen, this man is the best that you will ever have seen, for sure. But when you have a look at the tape and the footage of other fighters, because I watch footage, that's how I know he the best ever. I'm not just talking out of my ass. I watched at the footage. I'm not watching at the guys who have great punching power. I'm not watching at the guys that got great length. I'm not watching at the guys that have great speed. I'm not watching at the guys who have great power. I'm not watching the guys who are really physically strong. Floyd showed you how to beat these guys. And Canelo's taking on that same thing, and he's doing the same. And he's making these guys look easy. He made the Kovalev fight look like they was just sparring. That was not a fucking sparring, right? Go watch Mind Smash, this breakdown of Canelo Alvarez versus Sergey Kovalev. You guys gonna understand what the fuck Canelo was doing. Because the motherfucker is sick. I got another guy brought out on Facebook, but I couldn't translate it to here. And he was breaking down what Canelo did to Sergey Kovalev, showing every time Sergey Kovalev threw that right hand, Canelo punished his ass. And Kovalev didn't know if the counter punch was going to come to his body or to his head. He was guessing. He was guessing. He did not know because Canelo would feint. And when Canelo feints and then he goes to throw the punch, he throw it the same way. So he could throw the punch to the head. He throw it the same way. And then on top of that, Canelo would feint the right as if he's going to throw the right, and then he would throw the left. He feint the left as if he's going to throw a jab, then he throw a hook. Or he feint the left and then he throw the right instead of the left. That's the fucking special effects we talk about in boxing, not straight up and down. Special fucking effects. And I'm not saying that Floyd, you know, he brought to the game some things that are just new, period. In terms of moves, in terms of boxing, I never seen before. And the thing about Floyd is he can throw combinations, but he had to save his hands, so he didn't throw a lot of combinations. This motherfucker is not known as a power puncher. Okay? Listen to me carefully, man. This motherfucker was not a power puncher. This is Floyd Mayweather. I'm trying to get you guys to understand what I'm seeing, so you guys can see what I'm seeing. He's not a power puncher, yet he throw the least amount of punches. This motherfucker, every punch meant something. Every punch meant something. They talk about it with Canelo Alvarez now. They're praising Canelo for the things that Floyd do, okay? Floyd don't think about this round. He thinking rounds ahead, how I'm going to get you. He thinking rounds ahead. He putting in the work for later. That's the same thing Canelo do. Canelo be doing that. He got special effects. Floyd got special effects. He got tricks up his sleeve, motherfuckers. If you try to bring the heat and you say you're going to rush him, you're going to have a different pace to rush Floyd. And Floyd catch you with a surgical fucking shot to the liver. Surgical. It's how it's placed. Not so much the pop and the power. It's how it was timed and how it was placed. He's sneaking that left hook to the liver on you. All of a sudden, you don't have that energy you had to pursue him. He was surgical with the shot to the pit. Andre Ward stole that from him. He said, nah, that motherfucker, he timed that fucking shot to the pit. He didn't just throw the shot to the pit. He waiting for you to come to him. As you coming in, he going to use your momentum to even increase the impact of the shot to the pit. And he going to change levels to make sure he had the perfect angle to hit you. You know, one of the guys who was sparring part of Floyd said, man, you guys don't understand. Floyd's body shots are just so clinical. The one thing he could have gone to and put leverage under was body shots. Body work. Andrew Ward stole that. He said, Canelo stole that. Right? And Floyd could do it all. He wasn't just, what y'all don't realize is Floyd had a style like Jeff Mayweather. Jeff Mayweather was a guy that could bob and weave. Okay? He could snap back. He could shift head slots. Right? He was beautiful with that. And he could roll. And Floyd never showed you, well, there were certain fights where he rolled both ways, like James Stoney did. Right? Floyd can also roll both ways with both shoulders. You know what fight to watch? Watch Philip Endu versus Floyd Mayweather. You see him rolling punches both ways. People think it's only one way he could roll a punch with the shoulder roll. No, he could do a lot of shit. Floyd could do a lot of shit. When Floyd came out of the Olympics, he wasn't using the shoulder roll so much. You would see him with a high guard. You would see him doing different other things. Okay? And Floyd went back to the Michigan style, but that's not the only fucking style he could fight. And that's what a lot of people, even the young boxers today, don't understand. Floyd relies on various styles. He gonna take up appropriate style to deal with the appropriate opponent. And a lot of people don't understand that shit. Watch a Canelo. Canelo gave you a variety of styles in fighting a variety of opponents. Canelo and Floyd, man, they similar in many respects, man. They're very similar. Just that Canelo got better hands. His hands are not hurt. Pernell Whitaker, if Pernell Whitaker had good hands, that motherfucker would have been a beast. If Floyd had good hands, he just run over guys. He'd run them over like it's nothing. But because he had to use his mind, because he had to use his smarts even more than when he was younger. People always talk about the young Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, he was more exciting. But think about the older Floyd Mayweather. Think about a guy who had to think about how he was going to throw his punches, how he was going to think of landing punches. He had to save his hands because obviously he ain't want to lose. So he going to beat you up. But he think about after the fight because this motherfucker was a chess player. He wasn't no checkers player. He thinking about how I could save my hands after the fight. Okay? How I'm going to save my hands. And he had hand injuries on his wrist. I have a sprained wrist right now. He broke his wrist. So that fucking shit must hurt like shit, man. When you punch and you break your wrist on a punch, and you know the wrist is the place where you get most of your power. Now you got to be throwing with the lever. You got to be throwing with this because he had to line up his hands perfectly with his wrist so he don't break his wrist again and break all those little metacarpals up in the hand itself. Okay, I mean, think about what I'm saying, man. Now, a lot of boxers in history have broken their hands. George Foreman broke his hands many times. Don't get it twisted. A lot of fighters have broke their hands. Okay, but my point being, this motherfucker was like Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi had bad hands, right? Floyd had bad hands. But still, unlike Paulie Malignaggi, who used to stick the jab, Floyd's not that dude. He don't rely on a jab like that. He used feints. Canelo's not that dude. Canelo don't just rely on the jab. People say Canelo don't throw enough. Every single fucking punch Canelo throws has a certain intention behind it. He not just throwing punches just so. Sometimes he has a throwaway punch. He throw a throwaway punch. All right? And like I told you guys before, if Floyd meet a jabber, let's say he faced Erislandy Lara, you think Floyd gonna do the work trying to jab him all the time? Fuck that. Like Canelo, he gonna let Erislandy Lara do all the work. Okay, you measuring for me. I'm gonna let you measure for me. I'm gonna counterpunch your ass. I'm gonna be aggressive and I'll come in and I'll counterpunch your ass. And the other thing about these guys that make Floyd just a different level to all them other fighters out there, they're able to keep their composure but not be too calm. What I mean by that is some fighters, as the storm really starts coming, they don't know how to mount their offense and match the storm that's coming, match the energy that's coming, even though they still staying calm through the storm. I've watched many a black fighter, Slick, they get their ass beat because they couldn't take it up another level and still keep their calm. Because keeping your calm is not supposed to, it's supposed to increase your performance, not decrease your performance. And some guys, they don't step it up to the next energy level to match the opponent. And I look at all these young fighters. I look at Elita Alvarez versus Sergey Kovalev. Elita Alvarez was throwing too much heat on his punches. Too much intent. He had too much intent. You could see his face and everything. Trying to match that. Canelo didn't do that. He ain't got time for that shit. He shut him down. He shut down what he do good. He took away Kovalev's right hand. Motherfuckers wouldn't talk about that. He took away Kovalev's right hand. This is the best Mexican fighter ever. I can't say he's the greatest. He got a lot of work to do with Julio Cesar Chavez. But I'm going to say this categorically. This is the best Mexican fighter y'all ever seen. And that goes also, he better than Salvador Sanchez. I'm going to say that right now. And Salvador Sanchez was a beast. And he was good. All right? In terms of Latino fighters, I think he's the best Latino fighter ever. I would have loved to see what Valero would have done. Edwin Valero was a hell of a fighter. And he got the stoppage. You know what I'm saying? But I think Canelo just so smart. That motherfucker's so smart in there. He's smart. He thinking moves ahead. Stuff that Eric Morales. That's why Eric Morales and what's his name? Juan Manuel Marquez, they on him like that. Because they played checkers. Well, Marquez was more of a chess player. But they played checkers. This motherfucker played chess. Not Marquez. Marquez was a chess player. Okay? Marquez was a chess player. But he still got tagged up on shit. He got tagged up a hell of a lot more than and dropped and all that shit. Canelo's never been dropped in his career. Never. Never. He's special, man. But let's go back to Floyd Mayweather. I'm just giving you guys things to think about what I'm saying concerning Floyd Mayweather. I see you guys got a lot of comments. Let me get to your comments because I'm cool with it. Intangible Boxing says, I would take Sam Lanford, Henry Armstrong, Sugar Ray Robinson, and maybe Crab above Floyd. You could say Floyd is the greatest post Muhammad Ali. I don't think he's the greatest. Not even post Muhammad Ali. Not even post Muhammad Ali. You got names like Roy Jones Jr., Sugar Ray fucking Leonard. I mean, great fights, great trilogies, great, all kinds of great things. You can't just put great is a big word, man. Great is a big word. And when you talk about the greatest, you're talking about somebody who supersedes, you're talking about somebody who supersedes even the sport of boxing. And there are a lot of guys like that who have done that. I'm just talking boxing. When I'm just talking strictly boxing, I think Floyd is the best ever. That's my personal opinion. I think a lot of people are beginning to see what I was saying. A lot of people in the business and professional boxers even say it. Some of them, Lukowitz and various other guys said, that guy is the best ever. And the more we look back and pay attention to people break down what he did in that ring, because he did a lot of things in that ring. Buddy McGirt tries to break down Floyd as if he was simple, but he just faced, his Kovalev just faced another Floyd, was Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is a Floyd Mayweather, bigger, Mexican style, stronger Floyd. And the only reason Canelo could do what he does in that ring is because he got defense. Kovalev couldn't find him. Couldn't find him. Right in front of him. Walking his ass down. Couldn't find him. That's very hard to do. Walking down an opponent and not getting hit like that. And the only guy I know that did that, Floyd Mayweather versus Ab Judah. Perfect example. Watch the Canelo versus, now Canelo got a more Mexican style, but it's the same principle. High guard, walk the guy down, pick off shots, keep your defense, bob and weave, slip and slide, get to the inside, feint him, be smart, looking at the end game down the road. Floyd didn't stop Ab Judah, but you get what I'm saying. All right. And Canelo even went southpaw against Kovalev in couples, in certain parts in the fight. And Kovalev went southpaw on Canelo as well. Canelo, he's tricky, man. Anyway, but like we were saying, Buddy McGirt he's saying that Floyd just like everybody else, he just basic. No, he ain't basic. He's not basic. And the difference, you know who pointed this out? 68 Sports pointed it out. Because when you look at Devin Haney got a lot of skill, probably even better than Floyd, okay? Skill-wise. But decision-making, poor. Decision-making, poor. Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward was outboxing his ass, beating him up and all that shit. But did not make the necessary adjustment when Ward started putting that high guard up and get closing the distance. And he made poor decisions seeking to engage when he should not have engaged. It made for a great fight, right? It made for a great fight, right? But he lost, and he lost miserably with a lot of damage. He took unnecessary damage he did not need to take. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Thomas the Hitman Hearns, the first fight. Leonard tried to outbox Hearns. He used the wrong strategy, right? When you got a guy that's taller and longer than you, you got to get within his reach. You ain't going to box him from the outside. You could be stupid to do that, right? You're stupid to do that. You put your high guard up, right? And you make sure you can find range. You're going to fall short, then it means you got to get within his range, which means you have to slip and go into the inside. Leonard only figured that out in the 8th or 9th round, I think, of the fight. He realized, man, I got to put my dukes up, walk to him, start walking his ass down because I can't box him. Now, this common sense, it seems to us now, but back then it wasn't, right? There wasn't many people using the high guard, okay? Floyd and Canelo, they not just using the high guard. They have practiced and rehearsed that shit. You could tell because they're so sharp and they're so crisp with how they do it and how they execute it. And then the other shit that is important, Floyd, like a lot of people say, Floyd has skills, but they are honed skills. He don't ever look sloppy, right? He might miss a shot, but he still look crisp with his punches. He looked sharp with his punches. These are points I got to make to you guys because I'm not trying to talk from a fanboy perspective. Honestly, I'm telling y'all the truth, right? Especially in this day and age, how crisp and sharp these guys are. And then stamina-wise, people talk about Canelo's stamina sometimes, Faye. Floyd don't have no problem with his stamina. His conditioning always on point. Sugar Ray Leonard used to fade. Thomas Hearns used to fade. We can go all the way through history. Y'all want to talk about 22, 23 fights. Them guys didn't look crisp not even after round 5. Them motherfuckers be leaning on each other, hugging and kissing. Come on now. Go look at the black and white. Go look through history. These motherfuckers can't maintain what Floyd be maintaining. The conditioning was ridiculous. I don't know if he was using something though, folks. Evander Holyfield don't have that kind of fucking conditioning. Why? Because the man dedicated his life to boxing. He didn't cheat on boxing. Unlike them other guys that used to drink, womanize and shit. Floyd used to do his thing with but he dedicated himself to boxing. And you know who made Floyd even more serious about fucking boxing? Unlike Gervonta Davis, who's not serious about boxing like that. And they blow up in between fights and shit. Paul Spadafora. Ladies and gentlemen, when Floyd came in against Paul Spadafora, he was out of shape, and Paul Spadafora whooped his ass in sparring. He said, you know what? That's that. And he, from then on in season, out of season, this motherfucker being in shape. Always in shape. Thanks to Paul Spadafora. Kudos, shout out to Paul Spadafora. I don't know, I think he's training now. He trained people now. Shout out to Paul Spadafora. Hell of a fighter, too. Floyd never faced Paul Spadafora. I would have loved to see that fight, though. So, Tangible Boxing says, Langford also beat Ketchel, nearly blind, just saying. Yeah, but that don't mean shit to me. Just because he fight that's great. That makes him great. But that don't make him the best ever, in my opinion. Because you're talking about, okay, he was almost blind. He was feeling the punches flying by him. That's how he was able to fight him. In boxing, you don't always see every shot, right? You don't see shots coming from behind your head and shit like that. And Floyd, Sugar Ray Leonard, all these guys will tell you feel the punch coming. All right, so I get what you're saying. And then once you stay on a guy's body, like you right up on him, every movement that he makes, you can be able to feel it, and you can move with it because his body gonna move your body. That's how Henry Armstrong do it. It will be right up in your chest, right up on you, and he throw his short chopping punches on the inside, work your body, wear you down. While on the other hand, still trying to stave him off. You're trying to find him, but he's right up onto you. That's how Henry do his shit. And you try to tie him up, he ain't gonna let you tie him up. He gonna be slippery as shit and still get his punches in. That's how Henry was up on you. And if Sam Lankford was an inside fighter, which he was an inside fighter, kind of like Canelo, mid-range inside fighter, explosive, but not really. He don't really use a lot of foot movement. Inching on you, do his thing. You know what I'm saying? Langford, beautiful fighter to watch. I never really saw the earlier footage of him, but I saw him at heavyweight, and the motherfucker was sick, man. He was explosive and shit. But don't get it twisted. He did have certain flaws, but I'm not going to talk about them flaws right now. But I saw some of his flaws, and I understand why Harry Wills was able to beat his ass so much. But anyway, that's besides the point. The motherfucker came up from lightweight, okay? You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I think he even had a great welterweight fight with Barbados Joe Walker. They called it a draw, but really I think he beat Barbados Joe Walker. Anyway, that whole other story for another day. We're not talking just about Sam Lankford, but he's a hell of a fighter. No doubt about it. But once again, my point being, he had power, right? Everybody used to clout his power. He had something to rely on. Floyd didn't have that power to rely on. You know what I'm saying? And remember, Floyd also came up from weight classes. He came up from super featherweight all the way up to fucking welterweight where he can't pay that. And even jumped up one weight class, never really fully made the weight at super welterweight, right? He never fully made the fucking weight. He never was a full weight super welterweight. All right? Never. He did it 3 times. That's not even his fucking weight class. 3 times he did it. You got to give him his props for that. Manny Pacquiao did the same thing, right? Floyd and Manny Pacquiao and Marquez are the same size. They're the same size guys. They're not even welterweights, okay? And motherfucker was fighting a welterweight. So, I'm just saying, Sam Lankford, he wasn't a heavyweight, people say. He was like a middleweight, right? But he was fighting a heavyweight and tangling with the big boys. And that's crazy as well, all right? That's crazy just to talk about, all right? I don't think he fought, later, in the latter half of his career, he fought a heavyweight, all right? And all that's cool. I'm not saying no to it. I'm saying it's cool. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, when you look at what I'm talking about, which is boxing, if Floyd faced Lankford in the ring, I got Floyd all day. If Floyd faced Tyson in the ring, unlike Showbiz the Adult, I got Floyd beating Tyson because he find a way to win. Another guy who we underestimate is a fucking Andre Ward. Andre Ward, in fact, I'm gonna say this. Floyd versus Andre Ward would have been an interesting fight. Very interesting fight. I still got Floyd beating him because Floyd got more tools in the toolbox and he had more ways to adapt. But that would have been a fucking great chess match. Okay? Whitaker versus Floyd, fucking great chess match. Okay? That's all I'm saying. But, very few fighters in the history of boxing I know that would actually have the capacity to beat Floyd, I think. That's just my personal opinion. And it's not because, people always say he was cherry picking and all of that. I don't believe in that shit. I don't believe he was cherry picking anything except for the Andre Berto fight. I definitely think so. And the Conor McGregor fight. But then again, Conor McGregor called him out. So it is what it is. So, but when you talk about smart, this guy was smart every way around. If he going to face you, he going to have all the intel on your ass. He not going to leave nothing to chance. He going to be prepared for your ass. Every which way around it. He was smart in making business decisions. He was smart in how he even conducted himself inside and outside the ring in terms of making fights. Okay? It was very smart. So, and Andre Ward is the same thing. If he's going to prepare for you, he's going to really prepare for you. He don't leave nothing to chance. He really prepares for you. That's why I think Andre Ward and Floyd Mayweather would have been a hell of a something. Of course, Floyd would have tried to get into Andre Ward's head somehow, some way, to get an extra advantage over Andre Ward. But that would have been a hell of a fight too. Andrew Ward don't have as much skills as Floyd. Floyd has a lot more skill than Andrew Ward does. Andrew Ward said he can't check hook. He can't check hook on the pivot. Okay, and that's another thing. Another beautiful thing about Floyd and Canelo is they throw a punch at you, they're going to be defensively responsible. You're not going to hit them back with a punch, right? That's old school, right? But the way how they do it and the way how they maneuver, it got a lot of new school stuff to it and new flavor that they brought to the table as well. But, you know, you got to also think that guys like Roy Jones Jr. had an influence on Floyd, as Floyd had an influence on Canelo and some of these younger fighters coming up, you know. Why I say all of this is because now fighters are fighting back like back in the day, smarter, you know, not harder, smarter. So you had a lot more exciting fights in the recent past, you know, with guys throwing bombs at each other and shit like that. But back in the days of Sam Langford and those guys, you would have these little chess matches. It was chess match, and then it just explode into explosion, and then back to the chess match. You know, that's where Floyd and Canelo and some of them other guys, they old school like that. You know what I'm saying? And some of the skills that those guys had back in the day, we don't see it anymore. It's gone. It's gone. You know, until somebody revive it and use it in a boxing match. That's why when people talk about Jarrett Hurd can't box, that's interesting because he rolls punches either way, kind of like the old school fighters do. So the fact that they saying he can't box is really, it's ironic to hear now. What Deontay Wilder brings to the table, some of the things he brings to the table is old school shit that he being taught. You could tell Mark Breland's fingers on him with the jab. Like I said, it's a down jab. It's an in-between jab between a down jab and a power jab. It's really just, it's cool. I mean, it's something different than we never really seen before. You know, certain things that Wilder do in that ring, they're totally different. People talk about how wild he throws. No, actually, most of the fight, he's not throwing wild. You know, he looked a little bit wild and crazy against Tyson Fury, again, not boxing smart, which is why, you know, if you don't box smart, but then, you know, some people just don't box smart, period. You know, but game plans, people say, you know, stay behind your jab and so on. That's a nice game plan. But when Floyd talked about game plan, it's totally different. It's totally different. It's not stealing a punch. It's not just getting back another guy when he gets you. No. You work into a certain game plan. You're doing a particular thing to get a particular effect. You know, I'm feinting right, feinting left so I can get to a certain side of his body, not just because I don't want to get hit, but because I also want to hit him and not get hit. And so my footwork is actually setting this guy up. And he's throwing a certain punch when I move a certain way. Okay, I'm going to set him up for that. And that shot that I want to land on him is because later on, I want him not to be able to use that hand. Or later on, I don't want his feet going in this direction. Or I want him to slow down a little bit so I can get into position faster. This is the kind of shit I'm talking about. You know, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. That's called chess, not fucking checkers. Because I'm looking down the road when he's tired and he's gassed. I want to knock his ass out. And I can't be using a whole set of punches. I can't be throwing a whole set of punches. Because I want to preserve my hands. I want to come out of that ring with good hands, or as good as possible hands. Because how I came into the ring, I must leave that ring looking like how I came in. That's what Floyd Mayweather did. He didn't have them bloody wars that all them some of the past greats had. There was some, you know, he didn't have all those bloody dragged out wars because he's smart. He was smart in there. Even Canelo come out the two Gennady Golovkin fights. I think the other one he got his eye got cut. But in the first Gennady Golovkin fight, right, he walks out the fight with a clean face. Gennady Golovkin's face is all puffy and busted up and shit. And to me, he was better in the first fight than he did the second. You know what I'm saying? Edwin Valera was Venezuelan. Yeah, I know. I said Latino fighters. Sorry, my bad. Intangible Boxing. Sorry, I didn't read your comments. I was just talking. Intangible Boxing says, man, you ain't reading my comments. I got to go now. Oh, sorry about that, buddy. Sir. Edwin Valera was Venezuelan. Yes, I know. He was Latino. Shout out to you, Intangible. Get the Smoke says, Floyd is TBE in the same way he's Money and Pretty Boy. It's his nickname. Otherwise, Foreman beats Floyd. Hell no. Foreman ain't beating shit. Like again, I say over and over again, Foreman ain't a smarter boxer than Floyd. You telling me Carlos Baldomir didn't get to knock out Floyd, and he awkward as fuck, right? You telling me that Marcos McDonough didn't knock out Floyd? He quicker and sharper and faster than Foreman. And just because a guy can't get knocked out by Floyd and he keep on coming and bringing the heat, he gonna beat Floyd. This ain't happening, Ninja. It's not happening. Neither the young Foreman nor the older Foreman. If Muhammad Ali could beat the younger Foreman, and Floyd ain't gonna take that punishment, but he gonna make Foreman miss like mad. I mean, okay, let's put it this way. Does Foreman beat Pernell Whitaker? Dude, you gotta have a smart fighter to beat Floyd. Foreman was outsmarted by Muhammad Ali. Yeah, he outsmart the young guy because he wasn't listening. What was his name? The Southpaw dude who was heavyweight champion. Hey, Floyd ain't stupid like that. Foreman ain't beating shit. If Evander Holyfield and all them guys was beating up Foreman, Foreman ain't beating Floyd. Come on, y'all always thinking power. Y'all always thinking power. Y'all can't understand what I've been talking about because y'all don't even understand boxing like that. It's about being smart. You well prepared. Floyd always well prepared. You gotta be tripping. And he got good preparatory fights too. Go watch Floyd versus Jesus Chavez. Go watch Floyd versus Emmanuel Burton. Foreman ain't doing shit to Floyd. Come on, man. Come on. Get this smoke. You have trouble coming up with boxers that could beat Floyd? It's simple. Almost everybody in the modern era that fought for the heavyweight title for a major sanctioning body, including Wilder's defenses. No, Ninja. No. We always talking pound for pound, by the way, Ninja. We're always talking pound for pound. All right? Otherwise, don't call Sugar Ray Robinson the GOAT. Don't call Sugar Ray Robinson pound for pound the best. Don't call him that. Don't call him that. We're talking pound for pound, obviously. Don't call Sugar Ray Robinson the best ever because he was the one with the TBE title. Don't call him that either. Big George Foreman is not Baldomir. Dude. He ain't that smart. He ain't a smart boxer. He got outboxed by Muhammad Ali, okay? Stop it. You got to think of a smart fighter, dude. You got to think of a smart fighter. Power don't mean shit if you can't use it. Power don't mean shit if you can't use it. Sergey Kovalev is a harder puncher than Canelo. What I mean? How many punches were harder punches than Floyd? What I mean? I told y'all already. It wasn't that these guys aren't faster than Floyd. It's not that they stronger than Floyd. It's not that they quicker than Floyd. It's not that they taller than Floyd. It's not that they bigger than Floyd. That shit don't mean shit if you don't have this. And I just tried to break down a little bit of what these guys do. Because they're not thinking like Muhammad Ali was a fighter, something like that. Muhammad Ali was not a power puncher. Let's be real. As a heavyweight, he wasn't the hardest puncher out there. Right? Muhammad Ali wasn't the hardest puncher out there. He wasn't supposed to stop George Foreman. He wasn't supposed to stop the first guy, Sonny Liston. He wasn't supposed to stop him. Everybody thought Sonny Liston was going to kill him. No, Muhammad Ali was quick and he was smart. He was quick and he was smart. And he used his distance control. And he set up his opponent and he stopped him. Okay? I wouldn't consider Muhammad Ali smarter than Floyd, but he was smart. I mean, in the ring. Now, outside of the ring, obviously, he was smarter. But inside of the ring, what Floyd used and the skills. See, this is what I would say. Floyd, y'all think about what I'm saying. Floyd is a much more all-rounded fighter than Muhammad Ali. True or false? Pound for pound doesn't mean heavyweight. Of course it does, Ninja. If you say pound for pound, it means you got to look at all the weight classes. That's why a heavyweight can be pound for pound number one. Y'all was saying that Wilder's pound for pound number one. What happened? Of course heavyweight can be involved in that. Because a heavyweight, compare a heavyweight with a guy of smaller size, you got to shrink him down to the smaller size. So of course heavyweight can be pound for pound. Why do you guys say that? That don't make no logical sense. If heavyweight's out of the pound for pound discussion, then that's unfair. Only pound for pound fighters that can be on the pound for pound list, then shouldn't be Vladimir Klitschko should never have been on the pound for pound list. Lennox Lewis should never have been on Ring's pound for pound list. What are you talking about? That don't make no sense, bro. They were on the pound for pound list. Canelo has weight clauses. That don't mean shit, dude. It don't mean shit. Let me tell you why. He faced the dudes. These are facts. He faced the dudes and he beat them. So you could talk how much you want about weight clauses and whatever. The dude is so much bigger than him, right? That even with the weight clause, unless Canelo is that good skill wise, it don't matter. Kovalev could have had all his strength and all his power. The technique that Canelo was using still would have led to him not hitting Canelo and still guessing where Canelo would have landed his punches. That's why I don't play too much. The only thing I'm saying is he would have taken the punches better. He'd have taken the punches better. And he probably might have made it to the final bell. We don't know. We just guessing here. He might have made it to the final bell. As well as Kovalev had stamina problems all the time. So he probably might not have. But I'm just saying, Canelo don't hit that hard. You know what I'm saying? He don't hit like a light heavyweight. I'm pretty sure about that. He don't hit that hard. But he placed his punches so well that it didn't matter. Get the smoke. Please tell me when a guy beat a champion that outweighed him by 100 pounds. There are a lot of guys like that. But those guys that outweigh, especially in the heavyweight division, but the guys that did that and beat guys that outweighed him by 100 pounds, remember, when you have weight classes, that can't happen. Only in heavyweight. But the thing about it is, the guy that outweighed him by 100 pounds, he's sluggish as shit. He ain't athletic. So there's a point at which when you put on too much weight, it don't really matter. You could be butter bean. What I mean, you still could get your ass knocked out. There are guys that outweigh other guys by 100 pounds and so on, but at a certain point in time, unless that guy got the height to match his size, it work against him. It work against him. Jarrell Miller walks around 300 and something pounds. The weight worked for him at present, but it's going to work against him eventually. He had a bigger target. A bigger target. So, I mean, you could talk about that. But like I said before, when you look at it in terms of percentage-wise, you look at it in terms of base weight and percentage-wise, you know, and the other thing about it is, you know, a lot of people talk about Muhammad Ali was outweighed by guys. Muhammad Ali outweighed a lot of fighters, and especially in the latter half of his career. We're bigger than him. You know? I'm just saying. Deontay Wilder is special. He is small. He a big dude who's all muscle, but he lighter than almost everybody. And he's beast strong in spite of that. I think he taking something. But nonetheless, that's the way how he built. He's a strong motherfucker. And he can take a punch too. He is strong ass motherfucker, but he's not the smartest. He's not the smartest guy in the building. He's trying to box smart. He's trying to be smart. And he outplayed chess sometimes, but he played mostly checkers. He's still a checker player, but he's trying to get up to the chess level. But for that, you got to have some skill too. You got to have some skill. He's trying different things. He's trying different things. I see him when he tried to swivel and shit and he still got caught, but he tried different things. He outboxed Luis Ortiz. People say he didn't outbox Luis Ortiz. I'm just saying. But Foreman outweighs Floyd by at least 100 pounds. The boxing junkie says Floyd on a good day beats anyone his size. Yes, sir. In fact, James Toney said it best. From 154 down to 130, nobody beats Floyd Mayweather. James Toney said that. So it's not just size, but boxing range. You know, the man dominated. He dominated all the way from 130 all the way up to 154. That's why I said he the best ever. He proved it. He proved it. He said, devoid of weight class, I'm going to beat your ass. That's what he was basically saying. There's only so much he could physically make and physically do. You know what I'm saying? Basically went up 2 weight classes successfully, right? In the original weight classes, we're talking about lightweight and we're talking about welterweight, right? You could mention super welterweight as middleweight, but then that wouldn't be fair to the middleweights that are there, which he didn't face. You could say he selectively faced a small middleweight, but he may not have been world champion. I mean, Oscar became world champion at middleweight, so you could argue, okay, he beat Oscar, who was, you know, a middleweight world champion, so maybe Oscar will be one. But you can't say, oh yeah, you could say Famigo Cotto too, because he went up to middleweight and actually faced it. So you could say he faced 2 middleweights, and you know, 2 middleweights. Okay, you could say arguably that he could afford a middleweight, right? Because back in the day, the weight classes, the original weight classes were wider. Now we got these partial weight classes that kind of separated, so you have smaller separation. So to jump from one weight class to the next was tremendous, except that, like in the case of, say, for instance, um, Henry Armstrong, he never really fought guys at the full weight class like that because the guys were much smaller. Barney Russ and those guys. So he was able to get welterweight. And even when he fought the middleweight fight, that would be like today a super welterweight fight. Right? Nobody was weighing 160. So I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying though is that Mayweather did some shit, man. He proved that he pound for pound. He proved that he the best ever because he literally fought guys at different weights just to show when he didn't have nobody else at one weight, he went up a weight. You know what I'm saying? Canelo's doing the same thing. All right. He might make his 5th weight class. I don't know. I don't think he can make a cruiserweight. I don't think he can go all the way up, and he definitely can't go down. The Boxing Junkie. Shout out to you, brother. I got a saying about Wilder. Other fighters are holding a 22 pistol to Deontay as a double barrel 10 gauge sawed off with 2 triggers. Man, that mother packs, man. That motherfucker packs. And for his size, motherfucker is beast strong. He's very, very strong. And in his technique too, he's kind of like lightning. He hits you with a punch very, very fast. Remind me of Thomas Hearns from the Crunk Gym. But then again, he's being trained by a guy from the Crunk Gym who also had a similar technique. So that explains. The problem with Wilder is he's trying to box smarter, and he does box pretty smart because he doesn't throw a whole bunch of punches either. But against Tyson Fury, he needs to box smarter. He needs to go to the body more. Just invest in the body, and he need a better defense too. He got a pretty good defense, don't get me wrong, but he need a better defense so he could get those shots in really nice. Tyson Fury can fight on the inside as well, so Tyson Fury could easily change up the game. I saw him protect his body pretty well against Wilder the first time when Wilder tried to go body shotting on him. And Tyson Fury had one style. Wilder has several different styles he applies. He used the high guard. He can extend his guard, have his hands kind of dangling out there, roving. He does different things. Wilder's more versatile, I think, than Tyson Fury is, actually. He don't have as much hone skills. He tried all kinds of different things in that ring, which I like. He just don't have the hone skills, so he looks sloppy doing it. Michael A, shout out to Michael A. Seriously, no offense, just in here for a quick minute, but how does anyone say anyone is TBE? There are too many damn good boxers, 2 different dynamic factors, generations, and times. I hear you, brother. I hear you on that. I'm going to tell you why. If a boxer claims he's TBE and he can back his shit up, then I give him it. Like I said before, Lennox Lewis, he could claim he's TBE because he could back his shit up. Not only was he dominant, he beat everybody of his generation. Everybody, great fighters of his era. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather doesn't even leave it to chance. Lennox Lewis, he got beat by 2 guys. That means he let his guard down. He could have beat these guys, but for a moment he lapsed. Floyd did not lapse ever. He brought his A game not his A game, but you know what I mean. He was always prepared every single time. He took no opponent for granted. He was smart in how he faced his opponents. He was smart in how he mentally pierced his opponents. That is, he used the Muhammad Ali thing. He was smart in how he also approached his opponents. This motherfucker would break down his opponent and start breaking them down. And the other thing that you got to understand is he had handicaps. Okay? He had 2 bad arms. He had 2 bad hands. He had a bad knee. Okay? But yet he would still go through with all that handicaps. He still found a way to win all these fights, and clearly so that the judges picked him. So you gotta, when you're talking about Floyd, you gotta look at the case that he brings to the table. All right, it's not just the 50-0. It's the fact that this guy had been fighting and being a world champion since 1998. His career officially ended as world champion in 2015. This motherfucker been reigning as champion longer than Joe Louis. You gotta factor in these factors. That's what I'm saying. Even with the breaks in between, you gotta factor those factors into it. That's what I'm saying. Michael A says, yeah, Floyd and even Manny and others have titles at different weights, but you must only see this in lower weights because the weight intervals are smaller at a lower division. Upper division don't have that opportunity. I agree with that. I agree with that again, Michael A. But here's the thing. You're talking about a guy that reigned as champion right? From 130 to 154, never being able to make 154, right? He reigned as champion for a very long time, facing the very best. He never got beat by the very best. This is a very, very important issue. You understand what I'm saying? In the heavyweight division, you only had, especially back in the day, you only had one world champion, okay? Right? So that world champion would reign as world champion for as long as possible. The longest reigning world champion in heavyweight history and in boxing history, longest reigning, as in terms of time, is Joe Louis. All right. He also had, I think it was 25 or 24 defenses or 26 defenses, I think, of his title. All right. Floyd Mayweather matches Joe Louis in terms of the amount of undefeated championship fights he's had. In fact, championship wins. He has the same amount as Joe Louis. This is what a lot of people don't know. All right. And yeah, you could say today it's easier to get a belt, but look at the guys he went through to get those belts. He never had a vacant title. Floyd Mayweather never fought for a vacant title in his entire fucking career. And yeah, you could fight for a vacant title against a guy that's a notable opposition. But Floyd always faced the number one fucking guys, except for Arturo Gatti. The number one fucking guys is where he won his belts. Not to mention the number one guys or the number one contender or the number one opponent that he faced after that. You got to note these things. These are serious things, right? Even Sugar Ray Robinson, his first title opportunity was for a vacant title. You got to respect this shit. And yes, a lot of boxers throughout history did a lot of remarkable things, but not on that fucking level. Listen, you got to understand, it's not just that he's undefeated, it's that he beat every single great guy of his era. Every single one. All right? It's not so much about quantity, it's about quality. People talk about, Sugar Ray Robinson won 100 and something or 90 something fights. Well, I think it was 91 fights without a loss. Yeah, cool. But he was also fighting stay busy fights. Look at Floyd Mayweather's career. How many stay busy fights did he have that are even matching what Sugar Ray Robinson looked at, the level of opponents, because some of the shit was just shitty, right? Once he became world champion, and you could count all of those stay busy fights on one hand, sorry. You could count how many stay busy fights he had on one hand. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. And there were certain boxers in history who did some really remarkable things. Don't get it twisted. And yes, Floyd, because he has a different era, he was able to wear certain gloves for his hands. But the motherfucker had messed up hands. He had messed up arms, messed up hands, and he had a messed up leg. And he still was doing the shit he was doing. And remember, he ain't got that one-hitter quitter punching power. He got a power to get your attention, but he ain't got that one-hitter quitter punching power. So he had to be even more accurate than Pretty Boy Floyd was. So he actually perfected his game even more when he was Money Mayweather than when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, because Pretty Boy Floyd was taking everybody out. He could have used his power. He could run through people and shit. He didn't have to be super duper accurate like he was later on in his career. And that's the thing that people just do not appreciate, because this guy didn't get knockouts and run through people like Mike Tyson. He ain't the greatest. So he ain't the best ever. And people keep on thinking, oh, there were a lot of best ever fighters out there. There were a lot of guys that could be called the best ever. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying that his claim to being the best ever, it makes perfect sense to me. It's very compelling. And once people take their hater aid out of their head, and they really look at it collectively, which is people starting to do that more and more. His career is distant. They can't remember where he was as a boxer. The more and more they look back at the fights, they get this fresh perspective and they say, nah, this dude was the best ever. He really was the best ever. And we were fortunate in our era to see that. But because the guy was so controversial, we didn't want to give it to him at the time. You know what I'm saying? We didn't want to give it to him at the time. And a lot of people make the argument, well, he would have lost a fight or two back in the day. I'm not saying no. But the facts are he did not lose a fight in his era. So you have to factor that in, whether you like it or not. Some of the people say, well, the fighters of his era, they weren't as smart as the fighters back then. I look at them and I say, that's disputable. Besides that, there's always trade-offs. They may not have had the skill sets that the fighters of the past era had necessarily, certain skill sets, but other skill sets brought to the table. And then we always learned this. You can't train for a fighter that's successful with a awkward style. You just can't train for fighters like that. You can't train for a Manny Pacquiao. You just can't train for a Manny Pacquiao. You can't train for Aaron Pryor. You just can't train for an Aaron Pryor. You can't train for these dudes. They got a style all their own, right? And Floyd beat Pacquiao easy. You know what I'm saying? He beat Pacquiao easy, and that's stuff that we got to think about. We got to consider. This motherfucker made fantastic fighters look like they was amateurs. All right, and people are going to say this shit. You know what's the funny thing? Give this about 5 more years. People are going to be saying this shit. It's so funny to me because here are people lauding up Sam Blanchard. They're lauding up Charlie Burley. They're lauding up all these other fighters. But if you was in that time, you would have heard the same controversies that were going on now about Floyd. It's so funny how sometimes people don't know, but just because this guy is not as exciting as other fighters, you know, he don't give you that life and death situation like a Muhammad Ali versus a Joe, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about, Joe Frazier. He never had a Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier fight. He never had a Manny Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez fight. He never had a Gene Tunney versus Harry Crabb fight. He didn't have a Harry Wills versus Sam Langford fight. So that means that, you know, he not the best ever. I'm not saying those weren't great fights and great scrap ups. I'm not saying Eric Morales versus Marco Antonio Barrera wasn't great. Right? But Pernell Whitaker didn't have those kinds of fights. Floyd Mayweather didn't have those kinds of fights. We had the James Toney versus Roy Jones. I'm sorry. We had the James Toney versus what's the kid? Samuel Peter, right? We had the Ken Norton versus Muhammad Ali, right? We had the trilogies, you know. But you have to understand that a lot of people get caught up, like I said before, and you got to understand boxing. We talking boxing, right? We had the Willie Pep versus was that the taller, bigger guy, Sandy Sadler, right? We had those great fights, right? That's why people say Pep greater than Floyd and have better defense and shit. He don't have better defense than Floyd. He just don't have it. But that's why they say that stuff, you know. But when you really break it down, you will understand why Floyd didn't have these trilogies. He may have had a rematch. He had it with Jose Luis Castillo. He had it with Marcos Maidana. It would have been nice if he had one with Oscar De La Hoya to clear the air on that one, even though we already knew that he beat him by a unanimous decision. Those who know boxing understood that, because ain't no way a guy so much smaller than you. He's so much smaller than you. You come in like 160 something, right? He come in 148. Right, you weigh him and everything. You're better. You got a hell of a jab. You got a hell of a left hook. Right, you stopped the last opponent you had. You being befuddled by this dude? No, come on now. He dictated. That's what's happening. He dictated the fight because we know what Oscar De La Hoya fight looked like, right? So I mean, when you got a little dude doing that to you and you get a split decision, we're looking at it. What? You know what I'm saying? We know that was a unanimous decision win. For those of us who know boxing. If you know boxing, that is, you know, I'm just saying, maybe not. Maybe you think that Oscar should have won that fight. I'm looking at it, I'm bemused. How did he win that fight? But anyway, well, if you think so, I mean, his jab did bust Floyd's nose. Michael A says, "Love the Jesus piece at the back." Yeah, man. You know, it was Jesus forever, brother. Jesus forever. No matter what happened to me, no matter what I say, you know, I'm not selling my soul to no devil, man. No devil. Sorry. I'm going through my shit, but, you know, it's Jesus forever, brother. Don't worry. We're going to get back on track. You know, I'm just saying. Michael A says, yeah, bro, I get what you're saying. I mean, the man made the claim. That's why I'm looking at it. You know, Clarissa Shields says she's the GOAT. She's the, you know, greatest woman boxer of all time. She made the claim. She can back up her stuff so far, as far as I'm concerned. That's why I say it. You know, Vladimir Klitschko, hell of a fighter. I think he's one of those guys that are candidates for the best ever as well. Okay, but he got stopped by certain guys. He never rematched them and stuff. So he got a lot of asterisks on this stuff. I mean, I'm not saying that none of these fighters don't have asterisks on this stuff. I'm just saying though, you know. But when it comes to the jab, Klitschko got a really educated jab, you know. But I realized a lot of Eastern Europeans have it, but he had a special jab. He varied the pace, the range, the speed, everything about the jab. I think people should really study Vladimir Klitschko for the jab, to be honest with you. But like I was saying before, you know, I think at this present time, he got lots of merits to his claim of being the best ever. Michael A says, "Thanks for the feedback, bro. Really got to get to work. Have a good day. God bless. God bless. God bless you too, brother." Yeah. So, like I was saying before, I think that you know, I don't agree with Get the Smoke on that one, but I definitely believe he's not the greatest fighter of all time. That anybody saying that they don't. I don't get it. I don't get what they're saying. I don't get what they're saying. He's contributed to the sport of boxing and everything, but I agree with Showbiz the adult. I don't think he's the greatest of all time at all. But a lot of people mix up the greatest of all time with the best ever. They think it's a moniker or something that Floyd's doing. No, he actually believes what he's saying, and he makes the cases for it. He literally believes in his heart and soul he's the best ever to have done it, and he has the facts to back it up. Very calculated in everything he was doing, calculated in his career. And you got to give him his props. Now, the other thing about Floyd was he wasn't satisfied with just being in the game and a player in the game. He wanted to have control in the game. And that's another thing. This is the business aspect of him, where he became his own promoter, hooked up with Al Heyman, and now he's promoting fights for other boxers. And Oscar De La Hoya is doing it, but Floyd's doing it on another level. He also is trying to be creative and do things outside the box. That's why Gervonta Davis' career is going so well for him so far, even though he hasn't faced that level of opposition yet that he's supposed to face. But I do believe when he starts facing top tier level of opposition, he's not going to back down because the paycheck's going to be rolling in. And he shouldn't be fighting bums in between of that. So we're looking forward to that moment when he starts facing better competition. I mean, he's going to be facing Yorkis Gamboa a little bit over the hill, but still brings a lot of things to the table. People saying Gervonta might get him out of there soon. I don't know. We'll see. I can't say that. We'll see. He's a challenge for Gervonta, so we will see. It'd be surprising if Gamboa pulls the upset, doesn't it? You never know, man. He's a quick fighter. He's a smart fighter. They have sparred before, though. But I think the better challenge that's happening is Devin Haney versus Devin Haney versus Javier Fortuna. I think that's a better challenge. And I said it was a good fight, and I really mean it. That's a good fight for Devin Haney. And I'm glad that several people have been saying that, including another channel I just subscribed to, that Javier Fortuna is actually going to be a tougher fight for Devin Haney than Luke Campbell, in the sense that Luke Campbell is more technical, whereas Javier Fortuna is more rough and rugged. He reminds me a little bit of Psyche Abika. He reminds me a little bit of what's his name? The Cuban fighter. What's his name? I gotta go use the bathroom. I'll be right back, guys. He just got inducted into the Las Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame. That's 9 o'clock already. Good. I get to step into. Oh. Yeah, Joel Casamiro, that's the guy I was thinking of. Rough and rugged kind of style. And, Javier Fortuna, I haven't really watched him much, so I might have to have a look at him. That's a good fight, though. Yeah. So I think that Floyd Mayweather is TBE. I think he's the best ever. And there's a lot of things I would like to talk about him because I've studied him quite a lot because I always was looking at ways to beat his ass. With Canelo, I kind of know, he at least earlier on in his career, when you try and go find him, when you make him go find you, it's a lot tougher. And you give him those angles. The thing with Floyd is he's so rehearsed that he could come off of different angles and catch you and set traps and catch you with those angles. Canelo has now learned that art of, not just having defense and just making himself elusive, but now he's learned the art of setting traps even more. So he sets traps a lot more than when he didn't face Floyd. And he set a trap to knock down Austin Trout, yeah, but Get This Smoke says Casemiro is the best name win on Robert Guerrero's resume. I wouldn't say, well, let me think about that. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You're 100% correct. No, wait. Didn't he beat Orlando Salido? No, he didn't beat Orlando. Salido's not Casemiro anyway. You're right, 100%. You're absolutely correct. I was thinking of Andre Berto. I was thinking of hold on. I think you're right. I think you're 100% correct. Oh shit, my phone's dead. I was thinking of another name he had. He had a couple good names on his resume, though. He had a couple good names on his resume. And the fact that Guerrero came up from, I think it's featherweight. This motherfucker came up from featherweight all the way up to welterweight. It was impressive. 5 divisions. I think he won championships in 2. That's pretty impressive. Against who I can't remember though, who he won the championships off of. Yeah, Casemiro is the best win on his resume, and that was a Casemiro just coming down to the end of his career, of course. It was a good fight though. It was a good fight between Guerrero and Casemiro and 2 southpaws at that. It's a good fight. He got the nod over Casemiro on that one. Yeah. But I was talking about, Devin Haney facing Javier Fortuna. That's going to be a nice challenge. We'll see how Haney handles that challenge. Hopefully he goes back to his footwork and using proper footwork to come in off of better angles. I was just recently watching a video where they were talking about how you can defensively be sound with a hook. That is, you throw a hook, but you don't get hit with a counter. And it's just how you angle yourself when you're throwing the hook and how you come off the angle when you're throwing the hook, It's really good stuff. It's hard to implement, but it's good stuff. So, for instance, if I'm hooking you, a lot of people like to hook standing straight up. So let me give you an example. Like even with the check hook thing. So if you're going to hook somebody, right? Lots of people like to throw their hook like this, right? Ha! Or they throw their hook like this, right? Right? They throw their hooks. But they advise you to roll with the hook. So I'm going to roll with the hook. If I roll with the hook, it's harder for the other guy to hit me with a straight shot and I'm not rolling with the shot. So I ride the shot, right? So like, for instance, if I'm hooking this way, that's what, like if I'm doing a check hook, a lot of guys like to check hook and step back, right? They check hook, but they step back, right? So check hook and step back. But if you notice, when I check hook, my whole body wants to go this way, right? But they still get caught in the head. So I check hook. No, I check hook and roll with the check hook, right? I roll with the check hook. I roll with the check hook, right? Mayweather would not only roll with the check hook, he'd roll and snap back with the check hook. So he would, boom, and he snapped back out of the way, right? So these are the defensive things so that the guy can't catch you, right? If I'm walking down an opponent, right? I got my 2 guard because my body's open. I'm squared up, right? Most of the time. Even if I'm coming from the side like this, I'm squared up. By the way, Shakur Stevenson faced Joed Gonzalez. I don't know if you guys know this, but Joed Gonzalez beat Gervonta Davis in the amateurs. Just so people know, he's a good fighter. He really is a good fighter, and his style is very interesting. You know, he uses his size sometimes to get an advantage. But what Shakur Stevenson did was he established range very early and took away from Joed. So he established range here, and then he would do like this: up, 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 pow to the body, right? Up, pow. He can go to the body, right? Right? He goes to the body, and so he started wearing him down to the body. Joed's style is kind of more roving guard, so he's coming, you know, and so Gervonta was able to feint him up top and catch him down below, or sometimes feint him down below, right? Or he might feint him down below with, as he show him the left. I'm gonna show you the left, boop, right? I'll show you the left. Because a lot of, in boxing, there's a lot of feinting going on, right? One guy would do like, he'll show you the right, but really I'm going to pop the left, right? So, yeah. So I just wanted to share that with people, because especially my boy Get the Smoke, because I feel like there's a separation of certain fighters in history from other great fighters. And a lot of great fighters have done a lot of great things, okay, impressive things, and even faced impressive fighters as well. But I just think that the kind of career that Floyd Mayweather had was one in which it kind of separates him from everybody else. And I think even if you look at guys like Pernell Whitaker, who was proud of him, Mike McCallum, who's proud of him, and those kinds of guys, Vinny Panzienza and all of these other guys, Zab Judah, especially his contemporary. Imagine a guy like Zab Judah saying that he the best, he the best. And Zab Judah has a very great sense of history because he was mentored by Pernell Whitaker. When you hear Zab Judah actually acknowledging Floyd Mayweather as the best ever, and of course Zab is a very positive guy, and Zab's accomplishments, beating Corey Spinks, facing Costa Zoo. He's faced names, right? Amir Khan, Costa Zoo, Corey Spinks, Floyd. He's faced, I can't remember so many names. Danny Garcia. He's faced a lot of guys, right? So for him to say what he's saying, I think it puts some weight behind it. And even DeMarcus Corley saying something like that was pretty interesting, because DeMarcus Corley again faced Floyd. These guys faced Floyd. They actually fought Floyd. They know how good he is. So when you hear these guys actually say, the man's the best ever, start to talk that kind of stuff. I mean, they are training in the Mayweather boxing gym too, so there may be a bias behind that. But to hear these guys as boxers saying that, and I've heard certain promoters say that, I've heard certain trainers say that, it's something that I think, we should really keep in the back of our minds, because we don't hesitate to call Muhammad Ali the greatest. We didn't hesitate to call Sugar Ray Robinson the best ever, pound for pound number one. All of a sudden the standards change. Oh, we can't call nobody the best ever. They're all great in their own way. But what I like what Showbiz the Adult did is say, you need to respect the other boxers' true history and understand how Floyd got the foundation to be even in the position to even be able to be the best ever, because he would not have known this, because most of his skills, he had to be taught this, which means the past greats and the past great fighters, that knowledge had to be passed down to him to this day to be able to become that. And that is why he always says, I will never knock the past greats. They are the ones that put me in a position to be where I am today. He always says that over and over and over and over and over again, like a broken record. And I truly believe that. When it comes to skill wise, and when it comes to smart wise, and how to use those skills, how to use the skills appropriately to win a fight and so on, I think that Floyd is the best at it. And of course the numbers don't lie. The hit to not be hit, the hit to not get hit, plus minus percentage is ridiculous for Floyd Mayweather. And that just, again, it's just a fact that shows, regardless of who he faced in his era, he was able to, except for Jose Luis Castillo, except for Marcus Maidana, he dominated. All right, he dominated. And he didn't dominate. I don't think he dominated Jose Luis Castillo, and I don't think he dominated Marcus Maidana in terms of, it was a one-sided fight, and, just call it what it is. It's a one-sided fight, right? He clearly won. Exception of those two guys, on his entire fucking resume, right? I mean, he did have a life and death battle with Emmanuel Burton. He did have a life. That's a fight he came in not prepared for. He didn't. He thought he was just gonna go watch this guy. He took it for granted. I think the Emmanuel Burton fight probably also helped him to be even never underestimate anybody. A lot of times, you know, your game plan may be contingent on, oh, I'm gonna get this guy out. It's gonna be a short night. Devin Haney learned that lesson. He learned that lesson. He dropped the guy, but he couldn't stop the guy, right? So I think that these fights, helped the fighters be the fighters that they were today, that they are today. When you look at Floyd, he went through, his crucible. He went against Jesus Chavez. That prepared him for Diego Cross was first. He went through Jesus Chavez, gave him a tough fight, right? Jesus Chavez gave him a tough, tough, tough fight. You know, um, he blew through some other fighters, but he had a tough fight with Carlos something from Argentina, Carlos Rios, I think it was. He couldn't stop the guy. He couldn't stop the guy. The guy was slippery as hell. He was winning the fight, but he wasn't stopping the dude. He wasn't going to stop that dude. Every time he cut the guy with a punch, the guy knew how to roll the punches. He looked like that other Argentinian boxer that he had really great defense. Really great defense. Floyd could not. Floyd was trying to tee off on him. He couldn't land nothing. The guy was riding the punches. He was rolling the punches. Every time the guy got hurt, and Floyd learned the lesson that you got to set up the guy. You got to set traps. You can't just be going straight in there trying to tee off a guy and get him out of there. All these learning lessons. And Emmanuel Burton fight, he hurt both his hands in the Emmanuel Burton fight. Tough fights with Jose Luis Castillo, at least the first one. Going in there saying going to blitz Jose Luis Castillo, had an injured arm going in there. And it wasn't as easy. It started off an easy night, but it didn't end an easy night. No Jose Luis Castillo fight ever ends easy. And so I thought that these were the kinds of things that made him the fighter that he is or was. He ain't going to be boxing no more. So that's why I disagree with Get the Smoke in terms of TBE. It's not just a moniker, in my opinion. As much as Floyd's being very flippant and very, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Just really, really like the opposite of what he was. Talking about high risk, low reward, and got Gervonta Davis. He started off with a tough fight with Gervonta Davis with Jose Pedraza. Floyd had matched him in tough, but I heard Gervonta Davis protested that. He didn't like that he was matched so tough, and Floyd had to back off. And so he's been getting like doozies. He's been getting really easy going shots. But if you know Floyd, if you look at guys like Badu Jack, they be matched tough from day one. Even what's the kid's name? Who y'all really criticized a lot. He not boxing no more. He training now. Shout out to Marcel Music. What's up, my dude? Shout out to you, brother. He's not matched tough anymore. I forgot his name. He's training now. He's training his girlfriend. But I think that he was matched tough, right? Eventually he got knocked out, and he's been knocked out since. There are a bunch of Mayweather promotion fighters who are matched tough, and they lost some fights. Andrew TBE, to get his chance at a world championship, he got knocked out. He was winning the fight all the way through, and then he got knocked out, right? But my point being, though, that Mickey Bay was another guy that was matched tough. He had to face Miguel Vasquez, who has never been undefeated. He was not defeated as a world champion for a while at lightweight. He fought. I thought he shouldn't have gotten the decision, but he got the decision anyway. But match tough. You have to match these guys tough because when they get to the championship level, they must be ready for whatever they have to face. I like that Eddie Hearn is doing with Devin Haney. He's preparing him for the tougher, harder fights and the tougher, harder challenges, especially as the world champion. He should be matched tough. So I'm glad he's getting matched tough now with Get the Smoke says derivative should be the word you're looking for. TBE is a Floyd biting Ali's goats. Not quite sure I understand what you're saying here. Hold on a second. Derivative should be the word you're looking for. TBE is Floyd biting Ali's goat. I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying, bro. But no, I don't think it's a derivative. I think that when he said he's the best ever, they had been saying he was the best ever since he was in the amateurs, and then Emmanuel Stewart was saying that he could be the best ever, and then the amateurs was, and Floyd talked about being better than Sugar Ray Robinson when he was fighting. I think it was the guy from the Dominican Republic. It was at, I think it was at lightweight or super lightweight. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was at lightweight. And they were saying Biden plagiarizing. Nah, he wasn't trying to plagiarize Ali's GOAT, man. He used it. He said Ali calls himself the greatest. I call myself the best ever. What he basically saying is Ali was saying he was the greatest even before he was the greatest, right? Self-manifestation. Floyd is now saying he the best ever to do it, and he has lots of facts behind it. It's not like Floyd is the best ever, and it don't mean nothing. It literally is. He's not trying to plagiarize nothing. They were calling him that even before he now associated with Ali, but they were calling him the best ever since the amateurs. Bob Arum was saying Floyd is going to be the best fighter ever that he ever had. He even said that too. He said better than Ali, better than Sugar Ray Leonard. He was saying that too. So this is not something that Floyd's plagiarizing. It's not even the name that Floyd gave himself. Those people who gave him that name, So he started saying it, and he's been saying it from since God knows when. He's been saying, I'm better than Sugar Ray Robinson. I'm better than this guy. I'm better than that guy. Even before he even had the record to show it, So him taking now TBE and branding it and calling it the best ever, he have all right to say that. He have all right to say it. And he's not just trying to market something. It's something he believes. And the best kind of marketing is marketing what you believe. He just decided to market it. You know what I'm saying? Neither Floyd Sr. or Roger said that. No, Roger did. Roger said between the two guys, he thinks the best fighters ever, between Sugar Ray Robinson and Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd Mayweather Sr. believes that Muhammad Ali is the greatest. He's a Muhammad Ali fan. But Roger Mayweather said the two best fighters he's ever faced in his lifetime are Sugar Ray Robinson and Floyd Mayweather. He said it. He said, my nephew, you're looking at him. The best fighter ever, you're looking at him. He said it. He said, my nephew. I have footage of it. He says, Floyd beat. He said, you guys need to know boxing. Who was the guy that had the longest reigning champion in the history of boxing? Right? Sugar Ray Robinson. And he turned around and said, well, my nephew Floyd has now reigned longer than Sugar Ray Robinson. He said that. And if you check it out, he's right. Not Sugar Ray Robinson, sorry, Joe Louis, right? And he's talking about the guys from the Midwest and all of that. I used to watch those videos, So it's just an argument. Obviously, these guys are not going to literally fight each other, right? We all know this. Sugar Ray Robinson, that's why we had pound for pound. That's why when we talk about TBE, Sugar Ray Robinson's name always comes up. And the reason Sugar Ray Robinson's name deservedly needs to come up is because Sugar Ray Robinson faced all these great fighters, and he beat a lot of them. All right, and so he proved it in two weight divisions. We're talking proper weight divisions, which would have been at welterweight and then at middleweight. He did it. He did do that stuff. He lost some fights, rematched guys, beat some guys. You know what I'm saying? And he fought for quite a while too in his career. So you got to give him his props about that. Okay, I think Sugar Ray Robinson's career spanned as a world champion was 17 years or something like that. And Mayweather's career spanning as a world champion was like 18 years or something like that. Something like that. Some guys reign long. On and off. But my point is that, when you look at Sugar Ray Robinson's career, and I did all of this before, you can always look at my series, Floyd Mayweather TBE. When you look through the history of boxing and all these guys and all who they face and all of this shit, you're going to realize that Floyd beat more top tier guys or matched it. I think he beat more than any guy throughout history. Any guy throughout history. And we talk, well, not any guy, but the top tier guys throughout history. I mentioned some of them because what I did was I went to the Ring Magazine's pound for pound list or top tier list or some shit like that, and I look at the best fighters through history, and I took that, pulled them down, and then I showed the marquee wins of their careers and the guys that they lost to. When you look, Floyd has won, either he matched it or he's won better than those guys. I did all the data and all that stuff. I'm telling you, man, I ain't playing when I say the man knows what he's saying about being the best ever. Like literally, you can literally go through boxing history. Well, we'll have to say recent modern boxing history because we can't say. In fact, ESPN called him the best fighter of the last 20 years, and we had fighters like Roy Jones Jr. We had last 20 years. It was, when did they do that? I think they did it in 2015. I think after he beat Manny Pacquiao. So that would have been late 1990s to the 2000s. And that's really remarkable, considering you got guys like Roy Jones Jr., you got guys like James Toney, you had a lot of really great guys in that era, and he still come up on top. And the reason Floyd come up on top, Max Kellerman said it best, he very consistent. He wasn't the most flashy. He wanted the most, but he was very consistent. He was very consistent in his fights. He was always prepared. He was always in tip-top shape, and he was always smart in how he approached things. That's why he at the top. Roger said Sugar Ray Robinson is the best. Now he changed his mind because he said that Floyd. You go and look at the interview when Floyd was facing, who was it? I'm trying to remember. I think it was the Pacquiao fight. Before Pacquiao fight, Roger was saying something a little different. So go check that out. The interview's there. And the other thing, people are talking about Sugar Ray Leonard versus Floyd. And I remember him, I don't know if it was the Canelo fight, before the Canelo fight, one of them, he was talking about how Floyd has a better defense, for one, than Sugar Ray Leonard did, right? He got better defense. And the reason he was saying that is because, what you guys got to understand is defense wins you fights. That's why he kept on emphasizing on the defensive part of the thing. Because if you can't hit it, you know who else says that? Lennox Lewis. He say, if you can't hit it, you can't win. And if he could hit you, you can't hit him, he gonna win. It don't matter who you are. And I think that Lennox Lewis. Now Lennox Lewis feels he the best ever, which he's supposed to think, right? There are a couple guys that threw around that title. Mike Tyson threw around the title. I'm the best ever. I'm gonna eat your children. Blah 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 blah. He went on to say that. But Lennox Lewis, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Lennox Lewis, he got claim to that shit. He does have claim to the best ever. Lennox Lewis, he handled everybody in his era, but he lapsed. He wasn't supposed to lose that fight. Sugar Ray Leonard, he lapsed against Roberto Duran. He wasn't supposed to lose that fight. That was not a fight he should have lost, Sugar Ray Leonard. And he showed it in the rematch. Beat him easy. Make him quit. He made Roberto Duran quit. He should have fought that fight to begin with. That's what everybody was expecting him to fight. He decided he gonna go in there and bang. He gonna go in there and bang. He got himself hurt, all kinds of things, rock all kinds of shit. A couple times. I still thought he won that fight against Roberto Duran. But again, you got the judges looking at a 15-rounder, and they're gonna give it to the smaller guy who looks sensational. But I thought Leonard won that fight. ESPN said Tyson Fury is the lineal champ, which he is. Get the smoke. ESPN says Inoue has been a top 10 pound for pound for the last 2 years. Probably they had him like that. Because he'd been winning against veteran guys who've been champions for a while in different divisions. So, yeah, I could see maybe them having that argument. I'm not arguing against what they said. I know Tyson Fury is the lineal champion. There ain't nobody else. You can't lose your lineal championship. He the guy that beat Vladimir Klitschko. Okay? Vladimir Klitschko was the lineal champion. So how you mean? And he was a top 10. I think he was on the power. Was Tyson Fury on the pound for pound list? I don't know. But I do know this, that Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko was the lineal champion. It don't matter that Tyson Fury retired from boxing. You don't lose the lineal championship by going into retirement. You don't lose it. If Floyd come back tomorrow, he'll be the lineal champion anyway. Anybody who beat him will become the lineal champion. He trumps anything. Even if the number 1 pound for pound and number 2 the number 1 in the division and number 2 in the division face each other, right? And they become, and the winner becomes the lineal champion. That lineal champion will have to submit his lineal championship to the ultimate lineal champion, who's the guy that come out of retirement to face him. Because that's the guy that beat the guy. Right? Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko was the dude to beat. Vladimir Klitschko became the lineal champion because he beat so many top 10 guys. So he became the lineal champion. If the number one and number two face each other, if there's a vacation, if the lineal champion vacates, right? You're not coming back. Then you have to fight for the lineal championship to become the man of the division. Lineal just means the man of the division because you're not going to beat the man who beat the man. There's many times in history where the man didn't beat the man, okay? So Klitschko, he going to have to fight the number two in his division. He fight the number two in the division or the number three or the number four or the number five or whoever, right? And that's how he ended up with the Ring Magazine belt. Ring Magazine belt recognizes the lineal champion. You can't take back the lineal championship. When Canelo Alvarez was stripped of the WBC title, you can't take back that he beat Miguel Cotto. He the lineal guy. You can't take back that Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko first. It don't matter that Anthony Joshua beat him after. It don't matter. He beat Tyson Fury. He beat the Tyson Fury. I'm sorry. He beat Vladimir Klitschko first. So he's the lineal champion. Ain't nobody else. He's the guy. Now you got to beat him. So he is the lineal champion. That's just what it is. There is a belt for it, but it's from Ring Magazine. It's not a sanctioning belt, but there is a belt for it. He is the lineal champion. Get the Smoke says Fury is not lineal. Yes, he is lineal. Get the Smoke says that's the Ring lineal. Nope, he's lineal. Period. Lineal. Period. It don't matter. No such thing as. There's no such thing as. How do you think the lineal championship came down the line then? You think it's just continuous? It's never continuous. There are lots of guys that retire. Carlos Monzon in middleweight. Carlos Monzon left the middleweight division undefeated. He was the lineal champion. He was also the undisputed champion. So that there ain't gonna be no more lineal champions after him? You're saying that in the middleweight division there's no more lineal champions, right? So you can't say that. All right. Generally speaking, the lineal championship comes through the WBC title because usually the guys used to face for the WBC, WBA, but it's not always that case. All right. Now it's better if you become the lineal champion beating the guy of the division, right? Which is the case with Tyson Fury versus Vladimir Klitschko. Klitschko didn't get his lineal championship by beating the guy of the division because the lineal champion at the time was Lennox Lewis, who left boxing, and Vladimir was left, right? But he was the lineal champion because he faced whoever, the number two, number three guy, whoever it was, and he beat that dude. And because he beat that dude, he became lineal champion. That's the way it's always been. It had nothing to do with Ring Magazine. Otherwise, he ain't got no lineal champions since today. Because all divisions, there will always be a champion who was the lineal champion who left the division without getting beat. Which means what? It has to continue. Get this Smoke from an attack. You don't lose your lineal championship from inactivity and drug use. Manny, what's his name? Muhammad Ali was the lineal champion. Okay? He was stripped of his championship. Okay? But he still remained lineal champion. It's like Carlos Baldomir versus Zab Judah. Right? Carlos Baldomir did not become undisputed when he beat Zab Judah, right? So he didn't get the WBA belt, right? Zab Judah ended up with the IBF belt by default because, again, Carlos Baldomir did not pay the sanctioning fees, and Zab Judah did, so he got the IBF belt, okay? The point is, at the end of the day, the real champion was Carlos Baldomir, not Zab Judah. Because Carlos Baldomir beat Zab Judah. Okay? That's why everybody clamored for Floyd to face Carlos Baldomir. All right? But Floyd faced Zab Judah, who had the IBF belt, when he shouldn't have had the IBF belt. He faced him, he got the IBF belt, and then he beat Carlos Baldomir. My point being, Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko. It don't matter that they stripped him of all the other belts. They can even strip him of the Ring Magazine belt. It don't matter. He's still the lineal champion. And the Ring Magazine doesn't have him as lineal champion right now, actually. They don't have him as lineal champion right now because they stripped him of their belt. But he is the lineal champion. You can't strip that. I'm the man that beat the man. I'm going to always stay that way. You know? So that's just what it is. The Ring has its own lineal. The Ring magazine's been around since 1922. What it's supposed to do, if you go and read its page, is it observes and it acknowledges the lineal champion. The Ring don't have its own lineal champion. It's the lineal champion that they made a belt for and they recognize. It just so happens that throughout history, they've recognized sometimes guys who are not lineal champions who are who as the lineal champion, and guys who are lineal champions as not the lineal champion. A good case is Roy Jones Jr. and the guy from Germany. The guy from Germany, he beat Virgil Hill to become lineal champion. Okay, Roy beat Virgil Hill after, but he was not recognized as lineal champion. Roy was recognized as lineal champion, but Roy was not a lineal champion. And so Transnational Boxing Board, they recognize the lineal champions properly. Right? So, you know, I'm just saying. Vlad had the Ring's lineal. Fury won that and lost it. Again, once again, what you have to understand is that Tyson Fury cannot lose the lineal championship. I'm always going to be the lineal champion if I beat the guy who was the man of the division. Lineal champion means I am the man of the division. It's another way of telling you who the man of the division is. Another way is by being undisputed. That is to say, I'm the dude with the belts. I'm the man of the division. That's all undisputed means. See, if you guys understand the meaning behind things, y'all wouldn't get caught up in semantics. All right? Lineal means exactly that. Lineal, meaning this guy was the world champion, and succeeding him was this guy who beat him. And succeeding him was this guy who beat him. And succeeding him was this guy who beat him. That's what lineal means. All right? I was once the king, but I was beaten by this guy. He became the king. It's like warfare. That's what lineal is supposed to mean. But what happens when you don't have a king? The king has left his throne and has died abruptly. Okay? You got to have another for the throne. So what do? We fight for the throne to get another king. And that's how it goes. So that's why the lineal championship continues on and on. But they're not a consistent lineal champion like that. All right? So that's what the Ring magazine is supposed to be observing and recognizing. But they don't always get it right. And for fuck's sake, you cannot lose the lineal championship. This is why the WBC has champion in emeritus, because they acknowledge that this guy was a world champion. So if anything, it's not exactly like the lineal championship, but they say, okay, the lineal champion, you were the champion, so you should face the guy who's currently considered the champion. So if they have their lineal champion currently, then he's subservient to the other guy who's coming back into boxing, but the other guy got the immediate title shot against the other guy to make one lineal champion. So they try to sort out any mix-ups in boxing. But Fury's the guy that beat Vladimir Klitschko. He's the lineal champion. So what should have happened was Anthony Joshua should have faced Tyson Fury. Not Wilder should have faced Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua should have faced Tyson Fury to have one lineal champion. But Tyson Fury at this present time is the lineal champion, not Anthony Joshua. So he's right. Now, the thing about lineal champion is not necessarily the lineal champion is the best in the division. That's another thing. Right? It's just that the guy who might be the best in the division didn't get the opportunity to beat the lineal champion. The fact that Fury no longer has the title is evidence that it's different from the real one. It doesn't matter. The point is, the real lineal championship is what they're observing. There's no ring lineal champion. You understand what I'm saying? It's the lineal championship. They may be wrong on certain things. They didn't get it right, but that doesn't mean he's not the lineal champion. Get this smoke. Boxing meaning of undisputed is owning all the titles of major sanctioning bodies. Not really. The meaning of undisputed means you cannot dispute that I am the champion. I am the man of the division. That's all it means. And by having these 4 different belts from 4 different sanctioning bodies, it used to be 2. It just used to be the WBC, WBA. It used to be the NBA, New York State Athletic Commission. It used to be NYSAC, NBA. But even back in the day, in the 30s and so on, you would see guys with one version of the title. You would say heavyweight champion of the world, NYSAC, just a version of it. Or you see NBA title, right? And you see that, especially with the case of Sugar Ray Robinson, he won the NYSAC. I don't think he was undisputed at first. I think he had the New York State Athletic Commission title first. Then he became undisputed. I'm not too sure how, but later. Something like that. I can't remember how it go. But one of them. It may not be a Sugar Ray Robinson. Vlad's lineal reign started with him. No. He had to face somebody to get that. So all you have to do is just go back and look at, and it wasn't when he began. It was a little later on. When Lennox Lewis retired, after Lennox Lewis retired, Vlad faced somebody. I don't know who it was, maybe number 5, some top 10 guy. And somewhere along the line, somewhere along there, he became lineal champion. Because remember, Vitaly was still around. Somewhere along the line, he became lineal champion. I think Vitaly probably retired. I don't know if it was then. Somewhere along that line. And he never faced his brother, by the way. I don't see why he couldn't have faced his brother. But anyway, my point being, these are just different designations to make it clear to everybody, this is the dude of the division. This is the guy. Nowadays, we have it more unofficially. We look at guys like for instance, Adonis Stevenson was there with Sergey Kovalev, but they didn't recognize Adonis Stevenson as the man of the division. They recognized Sergey Kovalev as the man of the division. So that's why sometimes the lineal title don't mean shit. It just means out the guy that beat the guy that beat the guy, but he's not necessarily the man of the division. You know, which is why when Tyson Fury says, I am the lineal champion, that's cool, dude. You know, that's cool. But are you the man of the division? That's the question. So undisputed kind of closes that case somewhat. Not necessarily, because then again, you might have a guy coming up who hasn't won a world title yet, but he dominating. And they say, nah, this is the guy of the division. This looks like the guy of the division. You know what I'm saying? But it hasn't yet been proven. Yet you got the guy with the undisputed title sitting up on top there. You know, we've seen it a number of times. We've seen it a number of times through history. And the other guy, he's just never going to get a shot at the title because the champion ain't want to see no part of him. We've seen it a couple times in history. So the guy had to go do something else. Right? Or they wait for the guy to get old and tire out, right? Take for instance, Gary Morrigan now. Was the man of super bantamweight. He was the man. He was the dude. Eventually he won 2 belts, but he was being ducked by a lot of other guys, right? He never became undisputed, but nobody ever questioned he wasn't the man of super bantamweight. So like I said before, it's the principle behind the thing. It's not just a lot of people, they just harp on mantras, man. They harp on belts, they harp on things. They're not looking at, you got to look at the level of opposition. You got to look at who's the man of the division. Gennady Golovkin wasn't the lineal champion, but he was considered the man of the division. He'd be ducking all that shit, right? Sergio Martinez never faced him, right? Sergio Martinez was the man of the division for a long time until Gennady Golovkin came on the scene, right? So you have to be able to understand that. And just because a guy's undisputed doesn't necessarily mean he's the man of the division. Like I said before, he could be ducking dudes that won a real viable shot. Okay, take it for instance. I'm going to use this word ducking very loosely, but nonetheless. Canelo Alvarez, right? He's the man of the middleweight division. But he's ducking Charlo. He's ducking Demetrius Andrade, right? You guys don't want to give him pound for pound #1 status because of that. You say he's ducking these 2 dudes. He can't be pound for pound #1. He can't be the man of middleweight and he ain't facing these dudes. Okay, then. Well, it's the same thing. You can have that principle where the guy's undisputed, as was with the case with Sugar Ray Robinson and was it Sammy Angut, right? And I think it was Sammy Angut. I can't remember who it was. The man left. He vacated his title not to face Sugar Ray Robinson, right? Who was really the man of the division? You know what I'm saying? So it's all these kinds of things that you have to factor in when you're thinking about who's the man of the division. And undisputed seems like it should be undisputable that this guy is the dude of the division. It should be, but not necessarily, right? And nowadays, to become undisputed is even harder than before. That's why people give Terrence Crawford his props for becoming undisputed. They give Usyk his props for being undisputed. My thing is, Terrence Crawford, to me, is worthy of being undisputed because he faced the kid who knocked out Lucas Matisse, right? Because he's a good fighter. The other guy in Ndongo, I don't think very highly of him, okay? But with the other guy, I forgot what his name is, the WBC champ, who was it? And when our Terrence Crawford beat him and dropped him twice, I thought it was very, very impressive, you know? So his name made undisputed something that was worth my while to talk about. With Alexander Usyk, it was Maris Preda's win. The win against, and it was tough. It was a tough fight for him to win. But the Maris Preda's win made me say, okay, he worthy of undisputed. But he ain't got no other names there that really impressed me, right? And he was in a division that really nobody really paid attention to anyway. So now at heavyweight, similarly. So that's why I keep on saying over and over and over and over and over and over again that for me, it's not just how many title defenses you have. It's not just how many whether you become undisputed. That's cool. That's an accolade. That's an achievement. But it's who you've been facing while you become undisputed. Who you start to defend your undisputed title with. Terrence never defended his undisputed. Nobody talks about that. You know what I'm saying? Zab Judah, when he became undisputed with 3 belts, it wasn't 4. He defended it successfully against Cosmo Rivera, right? So, I mean, you have to look at all of these little factors that nobody really be talking about. But I see them and I say, you know what, you got to talk about this shit. You know what I mean? And again, people do like, Deontay Wilder, he ain't trying to unify titles. He's not undisputed. Listen, man, the man fought 3 credible names. He fought Tyson Fury. He fought Luis Ortiz. At the end of the day, if he never becomes undisputed, but he's facing top tier guys, okay? He faces Anthony Joshua. Maybe he faces Andy Ruiz, but Andy Ruiz is no longer unified. All of these kinds of things where you get stripped. Anything could happen. Because, look at this. Let me give you another important point. Suppose Andy Ruiz beats Anthony Joshua, and right after the IBF strips him of a title. Does that make Andy Ruiz versus Deontay Wilder any less of a fight? Just because Deontay Wilder is not going to be undisputed? No. It's Andy Ruiz. It's Deontay Wilder. If Deontay Wilder goes his entire career and cannot get that elusive undisputed championship title, but he faces all the best names in the sport of boxing time after time after time, does that not make him the man of the division? So what's the problem, right? We saw Mayweather versus Pacquiao. He beat Pacquiao. He should have the WBO title. The WBO stripped him of his title, all right? If he had faced Kell Brook, he would have been undisputed, right? What I mean, though? What I mean, he cleaned out his whole era. So what does that mean? It'd be great to have the undisputed on top of that. Very few people have it, so that would be great. But he already faced the greats of his era. So what does it matter? And this is the thing I'm trying to get people to understand. I'm not saying that belts don't matter. I'm not saying, but at a certain point in your career, it's about who you face and who you beat. It really is. It's great to have those other achievements, the kind of side achievements at that point in time, because you've had so many belts. You've shared so many things. You probably had all the belts that there were to have anyway. You may not have them all simultaneously, but you had all of them. What does it matter? Right? What does it matter? And with sanctioning bodies moving the way they do, where people just skip the rankings anyway and become contenders because this guy wanted to face this guy. I mean, what does it matter? Right? So undisputed is great. Don't get me wrong. That's a great achievement. And that's why Terrence Crawford and Alexander Usyk, in my opinion, it separates them from everybody else to some degree in that respect, in that they got undisputed. Great. But when you look at who they face, Vasily Lomachenko might actually have a better undisputed title if he beat the Richard Comey versus Teofimo Lopez, because he would have actually faced 2 excellent fighters. He would have faced Jose Pedraza, right, to get the first title. All right, the WBC. He would have faced, who did he face besides that? He faced some other guy to get the other title. I can't remember who it was. But he faced Jose Pedraza to get the WBC. I don't know how he got the WBO. I can't remember how he got the WBO. In the WBA, he won from Jose Pedraza. Sorry, he faced Luke Campbell, who's okay fighter, because he had faced also Linares, Jorge Linares. He faced Jorge Linares for the WBA, or was it WBO? He faced Luke Campbell for the WBC, right? I don't know who he faced for the WBO. And then after that, he's now going to be facing the winner of Teofimo Lopez and Richard Comey, guys other separate division, separate generation from him, for the WB, for the IBF. Okay, for the IBF. It's the names I think about that make this undisputed so great. He would have faced Jorge Linares, right, who was long reigning, champion, and then he would have faced a champion again in Richard Comey, right? Until Teofimo Lopez, okay, not so strong of a champion, but anyway, be somebody who was a champion. I mean, so did Alexander Usyk, so maybe not that great as I thought. Luke Campbell for the vacant title as well. It won't be that great, but I'm just saying, when you facing guys who have a resume, who've already had a lot of experience, who've proven themselves to be, the great fighters of the era, it makes a lot more. It adds more to your undisputed. That's what I'm saying. So when you look at guys like Amiga Cotto, or you look at guys like Triple G, or you look at guys like Jarrett Hurd when J Rock got the win over him. When you look at guys like Pedraza, who would look unbeatable and stuff. Those names. It's not just a guy that got a belt. It's not just a guy that got a belt. Um, you know, when Shane Mosley got Oscar De La Hoya. Um, so anyway, my point is that undisputed is great. I'm not saying it's not great. Back in the day when guys became undisputed, they really faced names. They really faced guys, and they defended their undisputed, especially at the heavyweight level. They defended their undisputed against great guys, and that's why I think Deontay Wilder. I was listening to Leonard Ellerby, and he actually supported the same thing I was saying, that Deontay Wilder is a good thing that he didn't take that contract with Anthony Joshua. And my point was simple. He gonna have bigger paydays later on when he's defending undisputed titles, or when he's defending against because as it progresses, Deontay Wilder's getting higher and higher level competition, right? He's rematching Luis Ortiz, then he's gonna face Tyson Fury. Those are top tier guys, and then after that, he's gonna be facing Dillian White, which is another top tier guy. So now he's really consistently facing top tier guys, and that's just gonna boost his profile, and he's gonna make more and more money, and they're gonna have more and more higher offers for him. And he's going to face Anthony Joshua. The heavyweight division only have so many great fighters in it. So he's going to face him. He's probably going to face, Dubois at some point in time, and all the other guys, Baby Miller, you name it. He's going to face them, Andy Ruiz, he's going to face all those guys. And if he keeps on winning, he's going to make more and more money. It's just what it is. So I don't understand why people say, no, he's lost a career record payday with Anthony Joshua. Well, guess what? It was going up and up and up anyway. The first offer was $14 million. The second offer is $40 million per fight, right? So just imagine what the third offer could be if Anthony Joshua ever wants to face him. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's only going to go up because Deontay Wilder's not losing. And once he keeps on winning in emphatic fashion like he's been doing, his value is just going to keep on going up. He might actually surpass a Floyd Mayweather in terms of revenue if he could just keep on winning. The idea is to keep on winning. Vladimir Reigns started with him. Vitaly retired. I think it was Chagaev. Okay, cool. When he beat Chagaev. There you go. Get this smoke. Universally recognized is not undisputed. But you understand my point where you could be undisputed and still duck a guy who probably is better than you. You know who was another guy that ducked a guy? You remember Archie Moore? Archie Moore didn't do the ducking. It was Joey Maxim. Joey Maxim ducked Archie Moore. He didn't want to face Archie Moore the first time, and he was the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. When he finally faced Archie Moore beat his ass and became the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. So even though you're undisputed, you could duck a fighter. You could be ducking dudes. All right, and that used to happen back in the day a lot. Guys just didn't want to face this guy, or even with the segregation that used to happen back in the day. So certain black fighters never got the opportunity to become whatever, you know. Boxing Monster, hell no, Floyd Royds is not the best ever. Boxing Monster, shout out to you, brother. Life's discussion with Be Live. Shout out to Life's discussion with Be Live. If he took the contract, he'd already be at the point where you're saying that he's working towards. I disagree with that, my friend. I disagree 100% because when that contract was sent was just before the fucking Dominic Brazil fight and just before the Gerald Miller fight. So they were signing that contract for before that. Gerald Miller didn't come up. He faced Andy Ruiz. He lost to Andy Ruiz, whereas Deontay Wilder knocked out Dominic Brazil. So what you're telling me is if you took the contract, he would have, no, motherfucker, because first of all, he wouldn't have gotten that payment. He wouldn't have gotten that payment because the fight wouldn't have been as lucrative. And on top of that, he'd have capped out, like Leonard L.B. said. He'd have capped out because now you jump that high, that fast, right? That's as high as they're going to pay you. He'd have capped out, like L.B. said. Boxing Monster, get this smoke is a fanboy with emotional attachments to certain boxers based on their looks and not the boxer's skills. You're saying he's buying into the hype of Deontay Wilder. Well, you know, the man has a self-belief, though. Wilder has a self-belief. He reminds me of Conor McGregor in that respect. He got strong self-belief, you know, but self-belief, it only goes so far. You got to have all-around game. And he's working on it, though. Wilder's working on all-around game. He can fight a bit on the inside. He can be a good, serious, sharp boxer. He can be. He got to work on the stance. He's got a lot of things he got to work on. But again, this guy, he didn't have an extensive amateur background. You know what I'm saying? That's why they had him matched in the way they were matching him coming up in his career. He now fighting serious fights now. All right? So, you know, you got to give him a bye. Do I think he's a monster? Do I think he has devastating one-punch knockout power? I don't think he's a monster. You know, that hype is that's just hype. Do I think he has nice technique in how he knocks out his opponents? Yes. Do I think he hits that hard as it seems? No. I don't think he has thudding power. I think it's his technique that makes him so good at what he does. He has lightning quick power to catch you out of position when you're not defending yourself and knock you down and stun you. You know, but do I think that he's strong? He's a fucking strong ox. Yes, he is. Do I think he can be beaten? Yes, I think he can be beaten. But do I think he will be beaten? I don't think so. I don't think he will be beaten anytime soon. I think if he fights smart against Tyson Fury, he can weaken him up and probably catch him with another good shot. Oh man, Boxing Monster, you got James Toney face on there. Well, you know what it is. You know what it is. If you respect James Toney, you know what it is. I ain't gotta say no more. By the way, people should respect, you know, they should respect also you know, I think people should respect people are gonna clown me. I think people should respect Paulie Malignaggi, man. Boxing Monster said, y'all gonna say this again. Wilder was offered a 3-fight contract. Yes, sir. He could have been done by now, making his own dollar amounts. That AJ fight has lost his steam. Plus, Wilder has a lot of holes and limitations. This is true. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, though, that contract would not have been done by now because Um, you can see that Anthony Joshua is facing right now Andy Ruiz. But what had happened was he'd have faced Andy Ruiz, lost, and then he would have had to put on hold his rematch with Deontay Wilder, which would leave Deontay Wilder free to face whoever, yes. If he lose again to Andy Ruiz, he still had to face Deontay Wilder. And Deontay Wilder didn't want to face, he would have wanted to face Andy Ruiz. Now, unless they give him leeway, see, because he wouldn't be free, it would still be up to the zone. It would still be up to, and then the zone would have to give him a leeway to fight on another channel like Showtime. Now that he's with Zone, so he would have been tied up. You understand? He would have been tied up with the Zone, tied up with Matchroom. He can't go nowhere. He would have been bottlenecked. So either he'd be sitting down inactive. You see how many fights he's had since then. And then he would have been in a quandary, and he would have had a cap because the most he could have get was $40 million, and his value is constantly increasing. Fight by fight, Deontay Wilder's value is increasing. So it would have been stupid for him to make that move, in my opinion. Boxing Monster says the Ruiz fight would never have happened. No, it would have, because Anthony Joshua. They were trying to make this agreement before the Dominic Brazil. Wilder had an upcoming fight, which was Dominic Brazil. And Anthony Joshua had an upcoming fight, which was Jarrell Miller. This was going to happen after that. So they were trying to do the contract and settle it out for after those two fights. They were not going to squash those two fights. They were going to have it after those two fights. And you saw what happened. Wilder knocked out Dominic Brazil. So they made it for if Wilder lost to Dominic Brazil, he would still face Anthony Joshua. What he didn't have was a clause for if Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz, would he face Wilder or not? There was nothing in that clause for that. So he lost to Andy Ruiz, and that threw a spoke in everything. And if Wilder was signed with the Zone, he not free to leave from the Zone. So he'd have been shackled down. All his fights would have had to be under the Zone. And either way to finish off the contract would have been to face Anthony. He would have had to face Anthony Joshua, win, lose, or whatever. It sucks. Meanwhile, Andy Ruiz would have been free to, if he had beat Anthony Joshua, like if he beats Anthony Joshua the second time, which I think he's going to do, he'd have been free to do whatever the fuck he wanted to do instead of facing Wilder to unify. And Wilder wants undisputed, right? So now he actually has that liberty to do whatever he wants. He could go any network. He could face Tyson Fury anywhere. You know? So now he can have this rematch with Tyson Fury, or he can have a fight where he's bound to Tyson Fury. He has to face Tyson Fury now. And that could be on ESPN. It's not a problem for him. He could go any network he wants. But it's only one fight he's bound to. Whereas if he had signed there, he would have to deal with 3 fights. And the fight would have had to be on his own. It wouldn't have been on any other network. He chose Showtime, which was a smart move. He didn't make as much as when he faced as if he were going to face, if he had faced Dominic Brazil on his own, but he got the freedom to choose whatever he wants to do afterwards. He didn't have to worry about 2 mandatory Anthony Joshua fights afterwards, and it got to be on his own. He could go anywhere network, so he's doing his next fight on Fox. He got freedom to go to Fox, from Showtime to Fox. And the next fight could be on ESPN. His next fight could be wherever he wants, because he's making these one-fight contractual arrangements to face this guy for one fight, which I think makes sense. Al Heyman's a proponent of that. But the boxer has freedom to sign with whatever network, whenever they want. Take, for instance, and then you look at any PBC fighter that's moved to some other network or some other company, they got these little really great contracts. Like, for instance, what's his name? Danny Jacobs right now. He's signed with Matchroom, but he's going to have a fight with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is a PBC fighter. Danny Garcia is a PBC fighter. And they're free to do whatever the fuck they want to do. So Al Heyman lets you plan out your career how you want. And I think that was the best decision he ever made. He was not shackled down to no zone. you know, and then you'd have this fight you'd have to be tied down to. It would be 2 fights, right? 2 fights. Andy Ruiz done already beat Anthony Joshua's ass. It wouldn't be great. And you got 2 fights. You got to face Anthony Joshua twice. That would have been fucked up, man. He might have been sitting on a shelf. Wilder offer was made before the AJ versus Miller was made. Yes, yes. That's what I'm saying. The offer to Wilder. No, 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 no. AJ versus Miller was already made. Live discussions would be live. You don't know what would have happened if the Wilder fight was set prior to the Ruiz fight. I'm saying to you again that it wasn't set prior to the Ruiz fight. AJ was coming to the United States. Boxing Monster. Miller was suspended, and the Ruiz fight was made only because the Wilder future fights were not set. My point being, though, Boxing Monster, that Miller got suspended, so they had the Ruiz fight. They wasn't trying to face Wilder. Boxing Monster says, let's be real. Wilder and Finkel were afraid to face AJ at that time. They were cowards. Call I guess a spade a spade? Nah, man. I disagree. Like I said before, and you can go look at the reports. The Miller fight was set. AJ and they wasn't trying to make. I don't think they were trying to make the fight with Wilder. They had Miller. Miller was come. This was what was supposed to happen. AJ came to America to have his debut fight in America. Then they were going to have the Deontay Wilder fight. So it was always going to be. It was never going to be Wilder next. It was going to be a debut fight to make AJ look good in America first, so that the Americans could take notice of AJ, and then it was going to have the Wilder fight. So it was never going to be where Wilder was going to face AJ next, and those other fights weren't going to happen. All right? They were negotiating for after AJ's debut. That's why he came across to America. Remember, Wilder came across to the UK and was trying to make a fight with AJ there. So AJ now comes across to America to debut. This was in his attempt to get the Wilder fight. And they were trying to make, you know how people are, they're trying to make negotiations. Okay, take for instance, before the Luis Ortiz fight, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder have already made arrangements and have already agreed to a fight. Okay, this is before the Ortiz fight. Now, once Wilder gets past Ortiz, the next person is Tyson Fury. Supposed to be. He have to talk to Tyson Fury to see if he could get another fight if Tyson Fury ain't ready. Same thing happened there with Wilder and AJ. They sometimes make fights many years in advance. Sometimes they brew in fights, right? So this is what's going on. This is what happens behind the scenes all the time. So it wasn't that he was afraid to face anybody because, like I said before, when you look at it, he was saying, I don't want to be tied down to more than one fight. I don't want a more than one fight deal with a network. If you look at what he's doing, he's on a fight-by-fight basis with Showtime. That's why he can leave Showtime and go to Fox. He's on a fight-by-fight basis with Fox. He's been consistent. Shirley Finkel, Al Heyman, him, been consistent. He looked like he might have a one-fight deal with ESPN, right? Clarissa Shields does the same thing. She's not tied down to any network. And Wilder didn't want to be tied down to a network. And it's a good thing he did that. Because he would have been locked there, probably sitting down, inactive, because he got to get the okay from DAZN. He would have to get the okay from Matchroom to be freed enough to fight regularly, while AJ was rematching Ruiz. All right, so good thing he chose his freedom, and his stock is only going up; it's not going down. So people make it out to be, oh man, when will he get 120 million? First of all, it's not 120 million. It would have been 40 million per fight. And he ain't that far away from 40 million. He made 14, what did he make? 16 million his last fight, or 14 million or something like that against Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury made 10, he made 14. He ain't that far away from 40. And once he continues to win, his stock is only going to go up. So I mean, boxing's not promised. Everything's not promised, but they have him on a certain pathway. Live discussions with B Live says he set up for two fights, one with Ortiz for no additional belts and another with Fury for no additional belts. Even if he was set to fight, no. Again, you mixing up shit. He not with the same network. He's not going to be fighting Fury on Fox. So he set up for two fights because he made an agreement with Tyson Fury. That's a separate contract with Tyson Fury, as with Ortiz. And Ortiz took the fight. He chose to face Ortiz again. He chose that. And that's going to be on Fox. The Tyson Fury fight will be on ESPN because Tyson Fury has a contract with ESPN. So he can go across to ESPN after. So you can't mix up the two. A 3-fight deal with DAZN means you have to face the guy on DAZN. Only unless DAZN gives you a break and says, all right, I want you on another network, which they won't do. You tied down to DAZN. You have to fight somebody on DAZN. So it would have been Dominic Brazil, and then if it's not Anthony Joshua, it would have been somebody else on the zone side. He'd been tied down to the zone because it's the zone offering the money, not Matchroom. He'd have been in no man's land, man. Even if he was set to fight AJ now, no belts will be on the line, but he'd be making more money. That's my point. That's my point. If say for instance Ruiz beats AJ, right, the second time in Saudi Arabia, now he has the opportunity to face Andy Ruiz on whatever network. And guess what? That was going to be a money-making fight because it's a unification. Because that's the guy that beat Anthony Joshua. Ruiz would have made his name off of Anthony Joshua. And once he beat Andy Ruiz, he's going to be the money man. He was more and more building up to being the money man, but then he's going to be the money man. So in the long run, all this, he turned down all this money, he ducked Anthony Joshua, is not, I don't think it's founded. But if you guys want to say that, fine. How you going to duck a guy that just got beat by Andy Ruiz? Then next thing, Wilder comes and beats Andy Ruiz. What does that mean? I'm just saying. This is just my point of view. You don't have to agree with me. You could think of it as ducking if you want. But I think it was a good decision in the end because he would have been tied down with DAZN. Boxing Monster says, right. But when Miller got suspended, that fight was off. And had Wilder future fights were set. My point is Wilder's future fight was set. It was Dominic Brazil. He had Dominic Brazil. Okay. And Anthony Joshua had Jarrell Miller. And then Jarrell Miller was caught dirty, so they had to stop that, and they had to look for another opponent. Wilder already had an opponent. It was Dominic Brazil. AJ and Herb would have pulled AJ and set the Wilder showdown. Ruiz got a shot. That'll make no sense. You're gonna debut in the United States of America with Wilder. That was never their plan. Ruiz got his shot because Miller was caught dirty. That's how Ruiz got his shot. Boxing Monster says, stop hugging Wilder's nuts. Wilder made 10 mil for... What does that matter, bro? He made 10 mil for his last fight. That was Dominic Brazil. I'm talking about the Tyson Fury fight. He made 14 million. And Fury made 10 because they got the back end from the pay-per-view. Remember, Wilder's a pay-per-view star, or is trying to be a pay-per-view star. They made a decent 350 million pay-per-view. So he's pay-per-view savvy, man. That's what you're forgetting. Anthony Joshua's a pay-per-view star back in the UK. He's not a pay-per-view star in America. All of this you got to consider. DAZN doesn't do pay-per-view. All of this you got to consider. It was a new network that Wilder didn't know too much about. All of this you got to consider. You got to be smart. You can't be stupid. You got to be smart. Now, y'all could call it a duck, but in my opinion, he did the smartest thing. And I agree with Leonard Ellaby. And who was it? 68 was saying that Leonard Ellaby knows how to, and Floyd Mayweather, they know how to promote Gervonta Davis. They know the business, saying, well, Wilder seems to know the business end pretty well too. I mean, if y'all want to hate on Wilder, it's not a problem for me. I don't have nothing to lose from it. I'm not a great Wilder fan. I don't defend Wilder like that. And at the same time, I'm also a guy who likes Deontay Wilder in terms of his personality and stuff. And I'm not too much of a fan of his boxing. I just think it's underrated. A lot of people don't understand he's a pretty good boxer, better than a lot of boxers out there, right? Better than Gennady Golovkin, in my opinion. You know, Gennady Golovkin is better technically when it comes to offense. Defensively, I think Wilder's better than him. I think he's better than him. But and yes, I hate on Gennady Golovkin a lot, which is sad. But I just think he's completely overrated. I think he's tough, but I think he's like almost like a punching bag. It's easy to hit him. But that's I'm not saying it's easy because he's an elite boxer, so he knows how to block, he knows how to roll some shots, he knows how to snap back a bit, But I think in terms of getting hit a lot, I think he gets hit way too much. He gets hit more than Wilder. That's what I mean. Boxing Monster says Wilder's success is because of people like Get the Smoke who pay pay-per-view prices for bum fights. I ain't paying for Wilder versus Ortiz too. I'm not paying for that. I know Wilder will stop Ortiz. I don't care what nobody say. Maybe he's stopping late. I don't care. He's stopping him again. Ortiz got going to have great cardio because he got the guy who the health and conditioning coach that did Sean Porter is going to be the health and conditioning coach for Ortiz. But I still think that Wilder going to stop his ass. If the first fight ended in a stoppage, the second fight is going to end in a stoppage. I don't need to see that fight again. That fight was not worthy of a rematch. Tyson Fury fight, that's worthy of a rematch. Because I thought Fury was robbed. At least give him the opportunity to come back and show that he could do better. If not, well, Wilder will beat him again. Boxing Monster says, peace out, homie. Great live. Shout out to you, man. You know you're boxing, so it's good to talk with you, man. You clown too, boy. You be joking all kinds of shit. It'd be funny talking with you guys, man. Peace, man. I gotta get out of here myself. I said that a long time. So I like talking boxing with you guys, to be honest with you. I'm not saying that I am the be all or end all of boxing because I'm just giving my opinions, but at the same time, there are also factual things that we have to take into account. And I say that's facts. You know what I'm saying? This is just my opinion. Live discussions with B Live says, did you see the dates on the contract? If AJ signed the contract, he'd be too tied up. What did you read in the contract that tells you that Wilder couldn't fight if one fight lost the initial fight? If one fighter lost the initial fight. No, it was Brock. Sorry, it was the media that said that. I was reading it in the media. That was boxingscene.com. An article that said that. I didn't say that. They said that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom went, or not Eddie Hearn, the people of the zone went as far as to put into the contract. They reported that. I'm only talking what they reported. I don't that even if Anthony, if Deontay Wilder had lost to Dominic Brazil, he would still get that shot at the Joshua. Yeah, that's what I saw that. And don't get me wrong, Deontay Wilder still wants to face Anthony Joshua, win, lose, or draw in this fight. He still wants to face him. I mean, but if Anthony Joshua loses, it's not going to be as massive a payday as if he would have faced Wilder undefeated and unified champion, which is okay. He may go on to beat a lot of other fighters. I think Andy Ruiz got his number. I think Tony Harrison got Jamel Charlo's number as well. Be nice if Charlo could if he could lose to, I'm sorry, if Charlo could win Tony Harrison, and if Anthony Joshua could beat back Andy Ruiz, that would be good for boxing because Anthony Joshua would be back on top. I don't know how much easier it would be to become undisputed, but if Andy Ruiz beats Anthony Joshua, that makes it a little bit easier for Deontay Wilder to face Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz is gonna make demands though, because he got all these belts and shit. He gonna make demands, even though they're on the same network of PBC. Andy Ruiz is gonna be a hard bargain because you see how hard he bargained with Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua gave him the break to face him. Just imagine when he beats Anthony Joshua again, how much harder he's gonna be at the negotiating table. And that's not a guaranteed Wilder win either. Andy Ruiz is a fierce competitor. He's got decent defense. So that's not a guaranteed win. And he got a hell of a chin. And he's quick. So, it's all of that we have to think about. Yeah, they'll make us wait. They'll make us wait, for sure. He had to face Tyson Fury. Then he may have to face Dillian White. Get those guys out of the way. And then he might face Andy Ruiz. But that again would be a good win for Deontay Wilder. It would be, again, a recognized name, a name that just beat a name. If he beats Andy Ruiz, that would be great. I don't think he's stopping Andy Ruiz either. That would be a tough fight. And Andy Ruiz could win that fight. Because Andy Ruiz on the inside is just so quick. He's very quick on the inside. So if Wilder don't catch him with something early, it's going to be a hard fight for Deontay Wilder. Jarrell Miller's another tough one. He can fight on the inside as well. But again, don't rule out Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury, he rises to the occasion and he can end fight. And he's tasted Wilder's power. He knows what Wilder brings to the table. So if he fights good and protects his body well, he could easily get that second fight. So Wilder, we got guys that could beat Deontay Wilder. That's what I'm basically saying. We got guys on the horizon that could beat Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury proved that he could beat him. So it's not as easy as it sounds, and that's the kind of competition Wilder needs to make him great. And that will definitely carry up his stock even more. The second Tyson Fury Wilder fight is going to probably rake in even more than the first. So that's the kind of good stuff. The Ortiz fight is a throwaway fight, in my opinion. It's like a stay busy fight. I know Ortiz will come better prepared and everything and all of that, but he's tasted the canvas with Wilder. He's going to taste it again. Maybe a little later, but Wilder will get him out of there. Yeah, guys, I got to get out of here. I've been on this for 2 hours. This was supposed to be Floyd Mayweather TBE and why I think he's TBE, but he's not the greatest. But it went into something else, which is cool. I mean, I like talking boxing with you guys. I'm going to catch you guys later. Shout out to Live Discussions with B Live. I need to check out your channel, brother. And Boxing Monster, always good to talk to you. Boxing Junkie was up in here. That was great as well. As Get the Smoke, which is what I addressed this video to. And Get the Smoke came and responded. Michael A. also, thank you for coming through. And I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. For those who are also viewing this video who may not see it live, you may see it later, you can also donate to my channel via Western Union or MoneyGram. This is a money-making venture that I'm doing. As well as you can also subscribe to my channel, share these videos, and leave your comments in the comment section below. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.